everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this month. This is going to be the 12 rising sign horoscopes for November of 2022. I hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks for joining me. October was a month, right? There was a lot of stuff going on. As I was looking at all of the transits for November, there is even more transits. So I'm going to try to move through these as swiftly as I can without sounding too repetitive. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western astrologer with a focus on the Sabian symbols. I also incorporate tarot into my readings. I do two separate videos. So towards the end of the month, I always do the horoscopes for the 12 rising signs. This is just more kind of like what to expect for the month ahead. It's really helpful if you either have your chart in front of you or if you take notes of the dates that I give you, or you can always take a screenshot and you can save the notes moving forward. But there will be a separate video that I do that's like the monthly address. That's actually going to come after the horoscopes this month. So you guys are going to see all of the transits. This is just the ones that kind of catch my eye this month, okay? So offerings this month, just want to roll through this really quickly. Obviously, the fall eclipses webinar, it already passed, but it was recorded. So if you're interested in hearing about the eclipses, the solar eclipse in Scorpio that we actually saw just a couple days ago, and the lunar eclipse in Taurus that is still yet to come on the 8th of November, that is over 4 hours of pre-recorded lecture on this. I also talk about the 12 signs. You can find this on sale on my website. You can click the links below. Also, on my website, you can learn with me. So I have like a whole basically like educational portal. If you want to go and learn beginners astrology or beginners tarot, you can sign up on my website and you can see those pre-recorded courses as well. Lots of study, there's homework, there's all kinds of stuff. So if you want to learn the way that I read, check that out. Every Saturday on the channel, we're going to be doing live readings. So we alternate each and every week. 1 week on Saturday, we'll be doing live tarot readings. 1 week, we'll be doing live astrology readings, all by donation. Try to keep it affordable. And I keep doing this because I know there's people out there who need readings and they can't wait 2 or 3 months to talk to me. And they also can't always afford a full session. So do check that out if you would like to get a reading. It's always going to be Saturdays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Holidays are coming, gift cards are available on my website, so if you want to give the gift of foresight, you can purchase several different types of readings as a gift, and it will be emailed to your loved ones if they have a birthday coming up, or if you want a New Year's reading or a holiday reading. And you can always book on my website if you click the links below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can see all of my list of services. Solar return birthday readings, election dates if you're getting married or you want to launch like a book, or if you want to relocate. I do full and half-hour sessions. I am booked until February of 2023, so it's not unusual for me to be booked 2 or 3 months out at a time. So if you know that you're having a birthday coming up, or if you would like to get a New Year's reading, make sure you hop on my schedule. It's live. All of the sessions I hold on Zoom one-on-one with my clients, and you get a recording afterwards that you can kind of listen to and use as your cosmic roadmap. Okay, so I guess I should say one other thing. This is more going to go in next month, but because this is going to play all through November, I just want to give you guys a heads up. There's lots of new stuff that I have coming for Beyond the Veil. So we're getting ready to, in November, launch an astrology calendar for 2023. So you're going to be able to purchase a hard copy of that or a digital copy. I can't give you the link because it's not quite ready yet. We're still getting the proofs back on it, but later this month it will be available. We are also going to be taking Astro 201 signups. So people who went through the Astro 101 beginners lesson course, we are going to be offering the next level, which will be starting in January of 2023. So keep an eye out for that. If you guys want, you can sign up for my newsletter on my website. I won't spam you. You're only going to get emails whenever we have a new course coming out, or if there's going to be like a webinar. But if you are interested in that, and if you took level 1 and you want to take level 2, I hope you join me. Level 2 is going to be all about solar returns, lunar returns, getting more comfortable with synastry aspects, learning more about transits and predictive methods. Okay, so you kind of move from just looking at the natal chart to being able to look at different astrology methods for making predictions. I hope you join me. All right, so like I said, so many transits this month. I'm going to try to kind of keep this moving along, but you may want to take a screenshot of this. Most of these I'm going to discuss in my my November month ahead horoscope, so I'm not going to focus too much on going into the depth, but these are what I'm going to be taking a look at. And so one thing I want you guys to know is that we have one more lunar eclipse that's coming, that's going to be in the sign of Taurus. It's pretty action-packed, if you ask me. If you have questions about that, you can take a look at my my video list. I did do a lunar eclipse video in Taurus, and I talk about what I'm anticipating from this eclipse. And to be honest with you, it's going to rock and rattle and roll. So make sure you check that out. We're going to see a ton of planets that are going to move through Scorpio. So when November hits, we've already got, you know, Venus in Scorpio, Sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. And we know that when planets move through the fixed signs, it's going to either come into a square with Saturn, an opposition with the North Node, a conjunction to the South Node. So this is a month where if you're into tracking the lunar transits, I really, really recommend knowing when the moon is going to be in the fixed signs. So when it's in Taurus, when it's in Scorpio, when it's in Leo, when it's in Aquarius, because it's going to reactivate fixed squares in the skies, and there's going to be some friction, and there's going to be a lot of karmic things that are playing out. When we have conjunctions or squares to the nodes or to Saturn, we definitely see, like, you know, feeling like a little bit between a rock and a hard place. So you guys will notice when I get into doing the horoscopes that like the first 10 days is just, you know, Sun conjunct this, square Saturn, oppose that, and you're just going to feel this breakdown and pressure because we're going to see the return of a fixed T-square between Saturn and Aquarius, which is now direct, the North Node in Taurus, and tons of planets that are in Scorpio conjunct the South Node. So it'll almost be like this feeling of, oh, all of this kind of gunk kind of comes up, you know. Scorpio, I'm a Scorpio, so I don't want anybody to take the stuff that I say about Scorpio personally, but it definitely brings up all of the crap, right? Scorpio is connected to the bowels and anything in regards to the root chakra. It's also like plumbing and shadow side stuff and things that are scary and death and rebirth and renewal. So think of as these planets go through Scorpio at the beginning of the month and they're coming into conjunction with the South Node as kind of like, oh, I don't like that, you know, or this is bad behavior, or this is my fear, or this is my pain, or this is something I'm having a difficult time letting go of, because the South Node has associations with loss. Now, in a way, we've really been in this really since the solar eclipse in Scorpio that took place a couple days ago, because the solar eclipse was in a South Node position. And over the next few days, and even as you're watching this, planets are crossing the South Node. So my advice is to observe. And what I have kind of gotten after meditating on this is just that as planets go through Scorpio and they touch on the South Node, we have to release and let go of something, even though it's scary. It's almost like a trust fall or taking a leap of faith. And we have to be willing to kind of lay something to rest, or finally let something go, or die off, so that way we can bring in something that is more solid, that's more pure, that's more calm and collected and natural. There's no need to let anger or jealousy or possessiveness or aggression take over. And if you're seeing some of these things coming up for you this month, it's just really important to recognize that it's like, okay, I'm observing it and I don't want to let myself kind of be taken away by these emotions anymore. So it's time to detox, purge, clear. And Scorpio is a fixed water sign. So it is associated with emotions, you know, co-ruled by both Mars and Pluto. So I think of it as like a boiling cauldron. And yeah, this is just the time of the year that we become more aware of our shadow self more than usual. So you'll see this as we kind of go through some of these transits. This is probably about half of the transits that I'm going to be talking about in the monthly address in general. So if you want more on that, you can listen to that. So the month kicks off on November 3rd, where we have Venus conjunct the South Node in Scorpio. And that's important because the North Node is in Taurus. It's ruled by Venus, which is pleasure and harmony and diplomacy and anything in regards to finances, resources, our relationships, all that stuff. So we really want to pay attention to both Venus and Mars this year, because the North and the South Node are in those ruled signs. So Venus in Scorpio is in its, technically it's in its fall, okay? So we're seeing that There is a sense of Venus not being totally pleased in Scorpio. It is more darker. We touch on like taboo stuff. There is much more intense emotions and kind of jealousy and possession stuff that kind of comes up. I've noticed it in just out and about. It was like once planets started moving into Scorpio right before the eclipse, it's like people have like this edge to them when you're kind of dealing with them. So unless you happen to be like a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising, this can just definitely be a little bit more of a challenging energy for most people. And when planets cross the South Node, it can go one of two ways. It can be this feeling of releasing and letting something go. So some of us are losing money, losing resources, releasing relationships, dealing with some, issues even in regards to health. There can be collective issues going on with women or with fear. So on the North Node, on the South Node, it also has this ability to unlock and kind of bring something in. So for some people, it can be like a woman from the past that appears, a karmic goodie from the past kind of appears. So I'm curious to see how this happens. You want to take a look at where Scorpio is in your chart because you're going to see lots of South Node action going on here. And Venus will be the very first sign that is going to come into conjunction with the South Node. You'll notice there's a trend. Planets will hit the South Node. It'll oppose the North Node, which means it's in opposition of our future destiny. So we have to collectively clear this stuff out in order to get to where we need to go with that North Node in Taurus. And it's going to square Saturn. So it's going to be like, I'm losing something. Okay, but I need to do that to get to my, future kind of direction or my ultimate kind of destination. And then we're going to see planets square Saturn and we're going to be like, that hurts, there's delays, this is difficult, I don't want to let this go. And we're going to see it's just uncomfortable. There's no real easy way to put it. And these planets are in financial signs. So when we're looking at Taurus, it's banking, it's your money, it's what you have in your wallet, it's what you have in your purse. When we look at Scorpio, it's like your investment accounts, it's anything in regards to your inheritances, your taxes, the money that you owe on loans or mortgages. And then it's all going to square Saturn, which is in Aquarius, which is about the collective, and it's also about politicians. So I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come up this month that's going to be like hearing in terms of like politics or world leaders, this is what we're doing to, help people with crisis financially and pay their bills and their student loans and afford to be able to put gas in their tank. And yeah, it's all kind of like leading up to that eclipse on the 8th where it's just going to be like gangbusters, and it's going to feel, because it's conjunct Uranus, that the floor just kind of falls out. So we're still feeling the Saturn-Uranus square all month long, and as we feel this, it's almost like I can't tell you in this tug of war of the eclipse which side is going to win. If you look at my video, I talk about how the moon is exalted in Taurus and it's usually comfortable there, but we see that it's conjunct Uranus, which is very emotionally destabilizing and quite wild. So we can see crazy financial events, major upsets in the markets, major changes, sudden inflation. And then we also see that the ruler of the lunar eclipse, Venus, is in opposition to the moon, and it's in its detriment, basically, in its fall in Scorpio, and it's in a square to Saturn. So in one way, I look at it, I'm like, oh, Uranus is the star of the show. And then I look at it and I go, actually, wait a second, is it Venus? And then I see both of them T-squared by Saturn. So in so many ways, this eclipse is basically like the grand finale, or it's the final breakdown or breakthrough in regards to the Saturn-Uranus square. So you want to look at where Scorpio, where Aquarius, and where Taurus is in your chart. Uranus in Taurus wants freedom. It wants decentralized banking. It wants to be able to be liberated. It wants to be wild and free. South Node in Scorpio is fearful, and it doesn't know how to move out of a feeling of not having enough. As planets go through there, we're going to be kind of having lots of situations that involve other people, because we'll see oppositions between Scorpio and Taurus. So this can be like between you and your friend, you and your partner, you and your bank, you and your accountant. And then all of it's going to square Saturn, which is very karmic. So you have to look at your chart to better understand, but I'll break it down for everyone. On the 5th, the sun conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio. So there is a releasing or a letting go of power. There can also be like good things that come in where we kind of remember who we are, and that there needs to be endings in order for there to be new beginnings. This same day, Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus, which is very sudden, unexpected, rocks and rattles and rolls. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at loss or releasing or like letting something go, and some very very crazy things I'm anticipating are going to be happening with the markets, really from the end of October all the way through November. Now, I think things will stabilize a little bit in January, but a lot of the eclipses that are taking place now do seem to indicate clear into spring and even summer of 2023, we're going to see still lots of instability. On the 6th of November, we're going to see Mercury conjunct the South Node in Scorpio. So that's going to be probably like, you know, do we let our minds run away with us? Are we losing our minds? Is there some kind of information that's kind of coming out? Mercury can be documents, information. It can be truth, especially in Scorpio, because Mercury in Scorpio wants to go deep. It wants to analyze and almost have like X-ray vision to kind of see through the bullshit and be able to really release something that needs to be released. So I'm looking at all the way up until the 8th, so much energy for exposés and the truth coming out and people, you know, finally coming to up to bat to kind of speak their truth. And we may see people unveiling things that maybe our intuition told us was going on, but now we may start to have solid proof. This same day, when Mercury conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio, we see Venus in Scorpio square Saturn in Aquarius, and that is likely going to be upsets in regards to relationships, delays with money. You know, if you're waiting on a check to clear, if you're waiting for somebody to pay you back, don't be expecting it this day because we've got this square, and Saturn is about delays in time, and Venus is about harmony in relationships, but Venus is not happy in Scorpio. I'm anticipating some really rough news in regards to taxes and things in regards to loans and banking and mortgages, especially with just all of these conjunctions to the South Node and the squares to Saturn, that information in regards to probably higher interest rates. And we may not be able to do some of this debt relief that some countries are promising that they were going to kind of help with. On the 8th, we have the lunar eclipse in Taurus at 16 degrees. Now, this is a total eclipse, so it is very, very impactful. If you look at the map of the path of the eclipse, it is insane. It basically, there's not much country-wise that does not get kind of affected by this. Obviously, like I said, there's more on that if you take a listen to my video, but lunar eclipses are full moons on steroids. So we are wrapping something up that really goes back to the solar eclipse in Taurus that was taking place closer to the end of April, beginning of May of 2022. So look at where Taurus is in your chart. You've been working hard and planting seeds in that area to bring in more physical change, to bring in life or growth or more financial security. And there's going to be something that is literally going to explode or implode because of Uranus's conjunction. Same day, on the 8th, Mercury is conjunct the Sun in Scorpio, and there will be a cazimi. Now that's really going to be kind of happening for a couple of days. You'll see that energy very close. I think the cazimi might be a day or so after, but Mercury conjunct the Sun can be some kind of like highlighting of information and something that comes to light. We see cazimis several times throughout the year, so it's not unusual for this to happen, but it can be about this connection between information and ideas in the heart and getting to the heart of the matter. Same day, on the 8th, Mercury in Scorpio also opposes Uranus in Taurus. So while there's this unveiling or information that comes out, Mercury will oppose Uranus in Taurus, which basically means that there's going to be some kind of upsets as a result of coming out with the truth. And it'll be midterm elections in the United States. So as much as I hate to say it, it's like the country's pretty divided. We're definitely going to see that neither side is really going to be pleased with the results. And quite frankly, I'm anticipating that there's going to be some drama in regards to malfunctions with machines because that can be Mercury. On the 9th of November, the Sun in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus, and it's an anything goes day. Uranus is destabilizing. It's quite wild. It's not comfortable in Taurus. That's why we've seen like this buildup in pressure and then things back down, and then buildup in pressure and things back down. Saturn has been reeling Uranus in on and off really for 2 years. And so likely right around the time of this eclipse, we're going to see something that's going to pop. The Sun in Scorpio highlights like where, like I said, we're releasing and letting go, or there's like a highlight in the shadow self. And when it opposes Uranus, it's basically like, you know, going to be some real sudden shifts, and things can kind of like turn on a dime in our life physically, because Scorpio is more about the emotions and Taurus is more about the physicality of things. This same day on the 9th, Mercury in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So similar to the square that we saw between Venus and Saturn, okay, that took place on the 6th. Now Mercury comes into the square, so it's going to be some like mental hurdles and some roadblocks and being like, okay, this, isn't working, or like, why can't I get my computer to work or turn on, or my cell phone's not getting service, or the ATM's not working. Like, there's going to be something like this that is going to happen. Those of you guys who have money on exchanges, I really recommend, like, you have all your settings set. If you know that you want to buy or sell at certain levels, you may want to set that up now. Make sure you know your passwords, make sure everything is clear. You can get into your online banking and trading very easily. And I'm going to keep telling people there is going to be things that are going to malfunction. So if you're suddenly wanting to get a lot of money off of an exchange or make a withdrawal or make a deposit, likely there's going to be issues with this. So have all of your settings ready prior to the eclipse. I also feel like it's really important for some people to move some of their like cryptocurrencies and stuff off of clouds and off of exchanges and onto cold storage, because I do think that we are going to possibly see some kind of information breach, or there's going to be some kind of hack that might happen with this as well. So be very mindful of all of your online transactions and trading and all of your accounts. On November 11th, we're going to see the Sun in Scorpio come into a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So similar squares, like I said, first it was Venus, then it was Mercury, and now it's going to be the Sun. Sun square Saturn is kind of like frustration, feeling like your energy or your will is being kind of thwarted, having to work hard to push through something. With squares in general, it's the energy of Mars. So when we see these squares, there's like a need to like act in some way. So if you see how all of these squares are setting up, pretty much from November 6th all the way through the 11th, it's like there's a lot of like, I have to do this and this and this and this and this. And all these planets in Scorpio are basically making a 3/4 square to Saturn. So this is kind of like the dismantling phase. If anything is not really in alignment, or if something really needs to change in order to better kind of appease Saturn, then you're going to see things kind of like break down in the Scorpio area of your life in general. So Sun square Saturn is not like a good day for a launch. I know it's 11/11. There's a lot of hype around 11/11, but personally not too crazy about that day. So I would say just keep in mind that there can be delays and challenges and setbacks with that square. On November 14th, the Sun in Scorpio comes into a trine with Neptune and Pisces. And this is where things kind of ease up a little bit. We're out of the eclipses. Now we're going to start seeing planets that are going to be in Scorpio coming into trines with Neptune. We'll also see some trines to Jupiter and Pisces as well, because Jupiter will have retrograded back to Pisces at this point. So when planets in Scorpio, which are about regeneration, transformation, loss, letting go, when they come into trines with Neptune, there is like a sense of ease, compassion, clearing, emotional clearing, healing, very spiritual, but it can also be sad. Like there can be sadness, there can be mourning and loss and grief that can come with these trines, because these are water signs, right? So on one hand, I'm like, okay, the clearing starts to happen when the Sun starts coming into a trine with Neptune. We're feeling optimistic, we're feeling a lot more hopeful and a lot more spiritually in tune. On the 15th, Venus in Scorpio will trine Jupiter and Pisces, probably one of the better transits all month. Venus, which deals with love and relationships, even though she's in the sign of Scorpio, will be forming trines, which are harmonious aspects to Jupiter, which will expand things. Now, sometimes trines can overblow a situation, and it can be like, I'm so upset, I'm so sad, I'm mourning so much, I'm having a difficult time, so it can go one of two ways. But generally, we see these trines about 3 times a year or so. In the water signs, it's going to be a lot more emotional than usual. Having Jupiter back in the sign of Pisces alongside with Neptune, a lot more emotions. People are going to be a lot more empathic. So keep in mind that if there is some major event going on in the world, we're all going to be feeling that more strongly and feeding off of that. Okay, so then on the 19th, we have a Mars retrograde that's been going on since the end of October. Mars retrograde in Gemini comes into its second square with Neptune in Pisces. So you guys want to look back on the October 10th through 14th period, just a couple weeks ago. That was the very first time that we saw Mars come into a square with Neptune. This will happen 3 times because Mars will go retrograde. So now that Mars is retrograde, it's the second square. If you look at the events taking place in October, likely there was some kind of misinformation, miscommunication, feeling energetically drained, not really knowing, what direction you were going in or your purpose. This is important because Mars only retrogrades like once every 2 years, but the Mars retrograde in Gemini is in an extended square to Neptune. Neptune in Pisces, which is very spiritual, compassionate, otherworldly, but it also deals with global events, the oceans, anything in regards to mysticism, magic, but also things that are hidden and behind the scenes, screens. Mars in Gemini deals with energy that's scattered. It's not as direct as Mars usually likes to be. It's in a sign that's associated with Mercury, and it's the air. So we're going to see like lots of back and forth with, keyboard warriors, and our mental states kind of frazzled, and there's going to be much more tension and issues in terms of communicating with other people and being able to get along. So when we see Mars in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces, there are conflicts over religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, anything in regards to certain groups of people who are feeling like they're being attacked. We also see lots of like kind of smoke and mirrors sometimes with the media, and also like a misrepresentation of war. Things can be dishonest, things can be intentionally kind of, misrepresented or edited. So just keep in mind, this is an energy that is not ideal for clear communication and clear direction. So we want to be honest. We want to be looking for honesty, transparency, and also, even though we're feeling a little bit run down from this square, don't hide away and avoid conflict. Sometimes conflict is necessary in order to be able to kind of hash something out and work something out. But because this is the second time, it's like it's returning back to something that was going on in mid-October to help you get more clarity. And Mars will go direct in January, and we're still going to see these squares clear until closer to about March of next year. So this is going to hang around for quite some time. So take your time in the Gemini area of your chart. On the 21st of the month, Venus will conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius, and I'm kind of looking forward to this. I mean, Mercury is technically going to be in a sign that's not ideal. Having Mercury in Sag can definitely tell tall tales. There we go, tongue twister. But I think that when Venus, which represents kind of the heart of the matter and relationships, and it moves into a fire sign, which is much more active, this might be like a wonderful time for people who are like wanting to get away, wanting to travel, wanting to feel inspired, writing, learning. Mercury and Venus, it can be sweet. The other side of Mercury and Venus is kind of like, because Mercury wants to dissect and wants to break things down, like it can bring difficulty in communicating in relationships, and some people may feel like they need more space and they need more freedom. So more positive, I think, for the fire signs, especially for Sagittarius. It might have you guys really talking about what you love and what you appreciate, but still not entirely too bad, just really active. On the 23rd of the month, Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So Jupiter has actually retrograded back into Pisces. It is going to retrograde back to about 28 degrees, and it's only going to hang out there until the end of December before moving back into the cardinal fire sign of Aries. So when Jupiter goes direct, you might notice there's like a little bit more extra sweetness in the Jupiter area of your life. And this is the very last time Jupiter and Neptune will be in the sign of Pisces in our lifetime. So high spirituality, high vibe, lots of mysticism, magic, sparkles, all that stuff, higher intuition. I did a video talking about this, about just some hot takes that I had on this conjunction and why it's so important to be more mindful of our mindset and also be maintaining the faith. So much of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces is about having to believe it before you see it. So it's a really wonderful time to be consistent with a faith routine or a spiritual routine, meditation, spending time in nature, and being more mindful of our emotional bodies. And finally, on the 30th, we're going to see Venus in Sag oppose Mars retrograde in Sagittarius. So that's going to be interesting, because that really kind of suggests there's some stuff going on here where the star-crossed lovers are challenged by separation or opposition. Sometimes a Mars-Venus opposition can be like a real nice period of like intimacy and passion, and it can have like this like magnetic effect, which can bring people together. But I still am curious to see what this is setting up for prior to Sagittarius season, because we are going to see the sun go through Sag and Mercury's in Sag, and all these planets are going to oppose Mars. So we're going to see that there's like the bigger picture that's kind of coming out in the world in regards to the narrative and where things are going. And then it's going to square Neptune. So we're going to see lots of mutable squares next month. But it can be a nice period where there can be more romance, there can be more bigger kind of acts of love and grandeur that are kind of taking place. And because this is happening in air and fire signs, it might also be about falling in love with education, with language, with new places, long distance relationships, love at a distance, you know, feeling drawn or attracted to a certain place or a certain person. For ingresses this month, we're going to see on the 15th, obviously Venus will move into the sign of Sagittarius. Mutable fire sign definitely loves its space. You got to give it a little bit of freedom to roam. Very much in love with culture and diversity and anything in regards to education, right? So think like, you know, maps and passports and textbooks and all kinds of things that are about learning and expanding, you know, the higher mind. On the 17th of the month, Mercury will move into Sagittarius as well. Like I said, technically in its fall, so it's not as easy being in this space. It has a tendency to kind of magnify or blow up stories, so we might see a lot more magnification of certain just media stations and news that's really kind of inflating things that are going on in the world. And yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that the Sun and Mercury and Venus are going to be there, I think we're all going to be hearing a lot about how the events that take place in the month of November are affecting us globally. So I think the United States is going to hear more like about the new prime minister. I think they're going to be talking about it more. I think the other countries are going to be talking about what's going on in America. Everybody's going to be like in each other's business, and it's all going to come into oppositions with Mars and squares to Neptune. So I think that in a lot of ways, it's meant to kind of be like to distract us and be like, okay, well, let's talk about what's going on with this situation. So that way you're not seeing what's going on over here, you know? And then on the 22nd, the Sun is going to move into Sagittarius. So those of you guys who are November Scorpios, happy birthday. Those of you guys who are Sagittariuses that are born in the end of November, happy birthday to you guys. Definitely interesting astrology for both signs this year for your solar return. We've got that total lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus at 16 degrees, and that'll be on November 8th. If you have any planets between like 14 and 18 degrees of the fixed sign, so that would be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, watch out. If you have any personal planets around 14 to 18 degrees of Taurus, really pay attention because that eclipse is definitely going to be a doozy. Then we've got a new moon in Sagittarius at 23 degrees, and this will be taking place on November 23rd, 2022. And this is a new moon, so you're setting new intentions. For the most part, even though these eclipses are taking place all the way up through the 8th, we're still kind of feeling the eclipse energy until the end of November. Things will wear off a little bit, and it'll get easier at the end of the month, and we have a nice little break, at least until we get into you know, some of the bigger planetary transits that are going to be taking place like February through May next year, okay? And that's really it for all of the transits that catch my eye. Like I said, this is only a fraction of them. So if you want to hear more, my hot takes on some of this stuff, check out the other video that I'm going to be putting out with my monthly address. Okay, guys, so this is going to be the November 2022 horoscopes. Please listen for your rising sun and moon signs. As always, this is tropical Western astrology. I practice Western astrology, and it's probably best, you're going to get the most out of my predictions if you're listening to your rising sign, because I'm going to be talking about specifically where these planets are moving through in the various houses. I'll show you what I'm looking at as I work through some of these dates and talk about how it might impact all of you. It is also important to listen to your rising sign along with your sun and your moon. So rising is going to say where in your life this energy is taking place. The sun sign is more about your happiness, your career, just your overall kind of energy. And then the moon sign is going to more relate to your relationships with family, your living situation, your home, right? I have just noticed that listening to all of them gives me like a fuller picture of what I can be expecting. But definitely, you know, do consider listening to all of them. I know that my horoscopes are sometimes rather long, so I appreciate those of you guys who listen all the way through, and those of you guys who leave comments and, like, you know, your timestamps and everything. You guys are so amazing. It was one of my goals before the end of this year to hit 10,000 subscribers. And as we're coming into the end of October, we're over 9,000. Now, I don't often talk about this stuff on my channel, but it's my birthday on 11/11. I'm going to be turning 33 years old. It's my Jesus year. And I'm really excited because I think that we might actually hit my goal of 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if we can hit 10,000 subscribers for my birthday, that'd be awesome. So if you're not already subscribed, please do give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you. So much growth in the channel. We've gone from 1,500 subscribers to almost 10,000 in less than a year. So thank you guys so much. Once again, you have made it totally worth putting in all of this effort. I appreciate all your comments and your memberships and your subscriptions. Those of you guys who join my webinars, all that stuff. I could not do this without you. So big thank you for that. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the 12 signs. All right, so this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. This is going to be your horoscope for November of 2022. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so pull up my little brush here. So the month is going to kick off on the 3rd when we have Venus that will be in conjunction to the South Node, okay? It's easier for me to draw on the chart than it is to move it around, so I'll have to tell you guys when things are moving, so don't worry about that. But yeah, Venus conjunct the South Node. So Venus rules your 7th house of relationships and partnerships, and Venus also rules money and resources. So it does seem to kind of indicate that there is a possibility of a loss, a letting go. It can be that you terminate a relationship, you let go of a counselor, you let go of a therapist, you want to cut ties with a client, something like that can happen. It can also represent a loss going on for your partner and their resources. So they could lose money in an investment. They could physically lose a piece of jewelry. There can be something that goes missing. So keep in mind that on the 3rd, this is energy that can be much more difficult for others rather than you. On the flip side, it can be that there's somebody from the past who kind of pops up to say hello, and it can be a woman or somebody who you were romantically involved with. So watch for that. On November 5th, the Sun conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio, okay? So this is kind of a big energy, and this is why I have a feeling it's either going to be like a investment loss, or it can be like an old romantic fling or a partner or a lover, because the Sun rules the 5th house. Now, the Sun conjunct the South Node can be a loss of power, so it can be saying, somebody feels that, they're having a down day energetically, or you've got a person who is having issues maybe with their self-esteem, or somebody from the past kind of pops up, okay? The Sun conjunct the South Node in general is like loss of solar figures, so people who are in charge. So you do want to keep an eye on like your investments, your kids, anything in regards to also like father figures. There can be stuff that can come up here that can be quite challenging. The same day, Venus in Scorpio is going to come into an opposition with Uranus. Okay, so still, once again, Venus ruling your 12th house and also your 2nd, which deals with your resources. It's going to oppose Uranus. So when I put all of this stuff together, planets crossing the South Node, squaring Saturn, and opposing your 2nd house is a falling away from support, not having as much resource coming in. So you might feel like, okay, you have a partner that can't spend as much money, or maybe they're saying to you, we need to stick to a budget. Maybe you get cut off in some way, or, if you were getting some support, you're no longer getting it. It's all reinforcing this North Node Uranus in your 2nd house of becoming more self-sustained and more focused on your own resources and what you're building. So whether it's like no longer getting spousal support, or no longer getting benefits, something like that is kind of coming up, which is putting the pressure on your finances this month. On the 6th of the month, we're going to see Mercury then come into conjunction with the South Node. And so I'm wondering if this is about being like, okay, I'm now needing to figure out how to find another job. I'm now needing to figure out how to remedy a health situation. The 8th house can deal with surgical procedures, so it can also be about sudden onset things where either you or somebody in your life is needing to undergo something surgically. That's even furthered by the eclipse, so keep that in mind. Venus in Scorpio will also start coming into a square with Saturn, okay? So Venus is partnerships, it's in the 8th house of joint people's money, and it's in a square with Saturn. So to me, it seems like there seems to be some friction that can be about what friends you hold on to or you let go of, what financial goals you hold on to and you let go of, whether or not you're feeling like you can, borrow or lend from either, banking systems or institutions or people. So when I know this sounds kind of like weird, but it's like, it's going to be one of these things. You're either going to deal with a situation where there's some kind of cut going on in terms of resources with a partner, or you're feeling the pressure financially and thinking about borrowing from an individual, or somebody's asking if they can borrow from you. Okay, so that's all playing out the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, leading up until we get to the lunar eclipse, which will be happening in Taurus in your 2nd house. So this is a full moon in the 2nd house. With this, we can see like big payouts, big opportunities for expansion. There can be like a big purchase, right? Something like that. And because it involves the moon, which is the ruler of your 4th house, it can be being like, okay, are we buying a home? Are we selling a home? Did we just find out that our rent is going up? Can we no longer afford our mortgage? Like, these are things that you can see with some of these aspects in this chart. And that intensity is playing out really all the way through mid-month. Now, on the 8th, you're going to see Mercury conjunct the Sun in Scorpio, so it does seem like there is a solution. So if you're looking for somebody who can help remedy a financial matter, a tax matter, if there's been delays in receiving support or resources, there may be some kind of a shift that happens. This may be as a result of a phone call or a document that kind of comes through. The Cassimi on the 8th is some information that's being kind of brought to the surface. And I feel like it can also, once again, it can deal with having conversations about financial or physical health. This same day, you're going to see then Mercury come into an opposition with Uranus. And to me, it seems like really insightful news or insight that's coming from another person. If you're relying on somebody financially, this can also be somebody being like, I can't get you the money, or I'm not working as much, or, being able to kind of like let you know, hey, this is the issue that I'm kind of dealing with at hand, which can feel a little bit financially destabilizing. That eclipse, obviously, like I said, is quite wild because of the conjunctions to Uranus, but also because of the squares to Saturn. So for all of the 12 signs, you're going to see the writing on the wall in terms of like what the big blow up moment is going to be when we get to the eclipse on the 8th. And it's going to be taking place literally from pretty much the 5th of November on. So pay attention, because that energy is going to build. While we're in between eclipses too, anything goes. So you can have an eclipse that happened at the end of October. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an event take place that day. You may not see kind of the build up until the eclipse here, or it may take place several weeks or months from now. So anything goes with these. On the 9th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio will then come into an opposition with Uranus. And this tells me that there seems to be a little bit of like some wildness going on, having some fun, maybe partying a little bit. There can be a little bit of like a sudden opportunity where I think the Sun is kind of highlighting where other people are taking risks or chances that may just pay off. But still, it's like there's going to be some wild things that happen because it's a Uranus opposition that's involving other people. So other people changing, other people transforming, other people having some sudden kind of setback financially, which then kind of stuns and shocks you, and you may respond to that in a certain way. And Mercury will then, in Scorpio, come into a square with Saturn. So to me, it's like anything in regards to joint resources, borrowing, lending, spending, what you're spending on things, what you're purchasing. There can be a lot of back and forth that you're having with other people in terms of your joint resources and investments, but also in terms of spending habits. So if you're somebody who has a business partner or a marital partner, or somebody who you just have joint resources with, pay attention this month, because things can get a little hairy, okay? On the 11th of the month, we're then going to see the Sun in Scorpio come into a square with Saturn. And I'm wondering also, because there's some planets that are squaring Saturn, but also like a lot of oppositions with Uranus. And for some people, it might be like back and forth with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It can be back and forth in terms of expenses with children, or issues with insurance, and making sure that a partner maintains their job so you stay insured. Making sure you have the necessary resources for children. That's another way that I could look at this as well. But the Sun square Saturn makes me feel like there's going to be a sense of like some limitation with getting resources out of something. And you may have friends that are asking you for some financial support or vice versa. And to me, it seems like there's going to be some hesitancy in actually being able to move forward with that. If you're in the process of like trying to get a loan or dealing with lending or paying off a mortgage or something like that, to me, this seems rather stressful. So it's important to plan ahead and make sure you have a lot of this stuff kind of organized going into the beginning of November so you're prepared for whatever kind of comes your way. On the 14th of the month, things start to get easier. The Sun in Scorpio starts coming into a trine with Neptune. So to me, this is saying like, you know, you're going to deal with the emotions, you're going to deal with the emotional aftermath, you're going to be able to clear things out, you're going to willingly let something go and kind of deal with the emotional kind of follow-up as a result of whatever was changing and transforming. For you, Aries, you've got a lot of action in the 8th house, and you've also got a lot of action in the 12th house. And these are houses that deal with endings, right? So the 4th house can be ends of situations, burials, or family. The 8th house can deal with taxes, insurance, or inheritance. And the 12th house deals with hospitals and things where people go to rest. So I don't say this to sound morbid, but just keep an eye out. Like there can definitely be some themes of this going on this month where suddenly you're realizing that you're having to be with somebody who's transitioning, or you know, little deaths can happen in the forms of endings of financial connections, quitting jobs, partners changing jobs, having to separate resources, things like that. On the 15th of the month, we are then going to see Venus in Scorpio come into a trine with Neptune, and Venus rules your house of partnerships and your resources. So I'm curious to see what pans out, because that makes me feel like there is a loss, but it materializes as a gain, right? So you end up, you know, losing one job, but you end up getting, you know, government support, or you end up letting go of an expensive item, but you end up like making money, but you're kind of like sad about the fact that you have to let it go. These are the kinds of things that we see with these trines, but it also looks like it's really positive for other people. So it's not necessarily just you, it's other people, and you may benefit from that in some way. On the 19th, Mars in Gemini squares Neptune and Pisces for the second time. And this is important because Mars rules your chart, Aries. So when it comes to how you're communicating, what you're saying, how you're talking to people, you know, make sure that you're being open, make sure that you're being honest, make sure that you're checking all your blind spots, make sure you have your facts straight, and that you're not manipulating things, or you're not, you know, telling tall tales. Because I think with this square in general, there can be a sense of like you being like, yeah, I say these things, but am I actually doing it? And it is in alignment with my belief system. So it's really important to ask yourself that. If you don't know something, you know, check your sources, you know, make sure that you get some background information on something before you post or sign something or agree to something or anything like that, because there can be a blind spot that's going on either with travel physically in a car. So there can be weather conditions that can be gnarly. Which, you know, sometimes these squares do land people in the hospital, or they do have an accident, and then suddenly they've got, you know, a broken bone and they need an x-ray with all these planets in the 8th house. And then there is more concern about insurance, you know? So there's something about this that's making me feel like there's a need to be transparent and be direct and be clear. You know, all the 8th house Scorpio can be about uncovering, you know, fears and being honest about intimacy issues and where you're afraid of making changes, and like learning how to kind of communicate more effectively, and not just being like, yeah, everything's fine. Emotions are going to run really high this month. So I would say whether it's you or it's the relationships you're having with other people, it's important to be honest and transparent. Look back at October 10th through the 14th to kind of see what was going on at that period of time. Because Mars rules your ascendant and your 3rd house, it can be about, you know, not knowing how to communicate that you're mentally stressed. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. On the 21st of the month, Venus will conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius. So we're going to have both Venus and Mercury move into your 9th house of Sag. Mercury rules your career and your daily routine, and also pets, assistance or help, and also your mental state. So I'm wondering, like, is it a good time to be scheduling a trip, thinking about going somewhere with someone, you know, talking about, you know, buying tickets or booking something? You may also be working your schedule in a way where you're thinking about education, teaching, publishing. If you need assistance with any of these things, like if you need a travel agent, if you need a teacher or a mentor or a guru, if you need a new trainer or somebody relating to health or fitness, it looks like you're willing to kind of do the work to kind of find it. You're willing to spend a little bit more to get the assistance that you need. And as Venus and Mercury conjunct, this is your 9th house of the higher mind. It makes me feel like you might be talking to a partner about what your belief systems are and what's expanding in terms of like the bigger picture of your life. On the 23rd of the month, we're going to see that Jupiter is going to go direct in Pisces, and that's in your 12th house. This is about finding the faith. You know, I think there can be lots of opportunities for spiritual expansion and growth, like really paying attention to your dreams and taking more time to consciously meditate and rest and recuperate and just focus on your belief systems. For some of you guys, it's like having the opportunity to travel to a foreign place. For others, it's about continuing education. Some of you guys are learning about philosophy, mysticism, you know, or you're going and getting degrees in like therapy or counseling. Some of you guys are also opting to study, you know, the arts or culture or philosophy as well. But I think with this finally going direct, it's like giving you this opportunity to really focus on everything that you've been manifesting, kind of visualizing and praying for right before it goes back into your sign at the end of this year, and you have a new beginning that is coming your way. November 30th, Venus in Sag opposes Mars in Gemini. So Venus will be up here in your 9th house, which is great for, you know, learning, you know, education, travel, anything in regards to like lawsuits, having support from mentors or gurus, teachers, and it will oppose Mars in your 3rd house. So this to me kind of suggests that a partner might have to be traveling if you're in a relationship. They may physically be at a distance for a period of time. They may be talking to you more about how to structure a trip or thinking about publishing a book, or talking to you about, you know, how to organize something maybe on a website, because it's going to be in this opposition to Mars. Now, those of you guys who are single, let's say you connect with somebody in another place or you're traveling, you might meet someone. So that's the other way that I look at it. And I think as Mars goes retrograde through your 3rd, it's kind of like you realizing like, wow, I need to totally restructure the way that I communicate with other people. And also you may feel a little bit more bound in a situation to your daily routines, or maybe even like your neighborhood, and it's more difficult for you to physically connect with somebody at a distance. So it can be lots of phone calls going back and forth on FaceTime, stuff like that. Know that as Venus and other planets go through Sagittarius, it'll start coming into squares with Neptune and Jupiter, and also more oppositions to Mars. So there can be like differences in time zones, differences in culture and belief systems. And like you want to watch for conflict in terms of like religion and like debating religion or philosophy or things like that, because you can get into it with a partner who's just kind of like not seeing things the way that you're seeing things. And it can definitely create a lot of stress and anxiety. And a lot of this is because you have other people that are coming in that are basically trying to talk to you more about the bigger picture rather than what's just going on in your world. It's like what's going on in the world at large, and how the events that are taking place in the world should be kind of shaping your belief systems. Like I said, you got that lunar eclipse on the 8th in your 2nd house. So watch for big changes in regards to money and resources. There's been an ongoing Saturn-Uranus square between, you know, Saturn in your 11th house of friends and goals, and Uranus in your 2nd house of money and resources. To me, it looks like you've been trying to break free and become more independent, become more like a maverick when it comes to your money. So yeah, that's basically the long and short of what's happening this month. Look for that new moon that's taking place in Sagittarius, and that will be in your 9th house around the 23rd. Great time to set the stage for traveling, publishing, learning, anything in regards to the bigger picture. It is going to be in some funky angles to Jupiter and Neptune and Mars. So I'll talk about that more when I do the video on the new moon, but it's definitely going to be changing your beliefs. That's what I can see. The card that I get for you is the Queen of Wands. So this is all going to be about your passion, your desire, your drive, anything in regards to creativity, interacting with other fire signs. So it can be other Aries, Leos, or Sagittariuses. This is also about getting on track with your self-expression, anything in regards to what motivates you, right? So motivation is a key this month. Lots of energy that's going to be kind of hanging out in Sagittarius. So you're going to like that, especially later in the month of November. It's going to start coming into trines with your ascendant. So it's going to have you feeling more lively. So if you feel like you need to travel, get out, teach, learn, read a book, start a new program, anything like that, it's going to be really good. And to me, it looks like it's really working with your energies that you have naturally in your horoscope because you are a fire sign. Even if you have to go and do some of these things on your own, it looks positive and it looks like you're going to rock it. So enjoy. Good luck. Let's now move to Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? How's it going? All right, so we've got a lot going on this month for you, Taurus. The month is going to kick off on the 3rd of November, and this is when we have Venus conjunct the South Node. Well, okay, so Venus rules your chart, right? So because Venus rules your chart, when Venus comes into conjunction with planets or South Node, or if it's squared by Saturn, like you're going to feel it. So you're probably still coming off of some of the eclipse energy that was happening not too long ago at the end of October. So, you know, one thing that I would watch for when this South Node Venus conjunction happens is like, are you hearing from the past? Are you interacting with people from the past? 7th house can be romantic partners, business partners. It can be open enemies. So keep in mind. And you are Venus. So with Venus coming in conjunction with the South Node, it's either about like dealing with somebody from the past or maybe releasing or letting something go. You may find that it's like harder to please your partners or harder to find peace or harmony while Venus is in the sign of Scorpio and when it's conjunct the South Node. Those of you guys who have been having relationship problems for some time, you're going to see this continue as all these planets come into conjunction with the South Node. Especially if you're a Taurus or a Taurus rising that's been in a relationship with a Scorpio currently or in the past, you might find that there is just going to be a little bit more tension going on with some of these particular partners. But Venus conjunct the South Node means that somebody can make a reappearing act from your past, and you're going to see a whole slew of planets that are going to come into conjunction with the South Node and then also oppose Uranus and the North Node in your sign, okay? But yeah, that can just be a difficult time finding harmony. Now, on the flip side, South Node Venus can be like those of you guys who are single, somebody can come in and like there's really strong karmic forces at hand right now that's trying to kind of align you with soulmates and bringing in people that you're meant to kind of meet during this time. It's a lot easier for people who are single with these transits because those of you guys who are in committed relationships with the North Node and Uranus in your sign, it's like there is more time on your own, there is more focus on yourself, and good relationships can make it through. Like it's not going to be a deal breaker, but you will find that there's more focus on you than there is necessarily in the relationship and more growth. And, you know, when you're focusing on growth and really becoming the best version of yourself, sometimes that does miff your partners and your partners are going to get a little weird and kind of scorpionic and intense or obsessive or jealous or kind of like curious about like what you're really doing, and you can see some stuff come out that's not easy to deal with. On the 5th of November, the Sun will then conjunct the South Node, and the Sun rules family and things in regards to the past. So when it comes to partners, you want to pay attention because there can also be some issues going on with like your partner's parents, and that's because the Sun rules the 4th house of family. So there can be a sense of them having to leave the home or wanting to leave the home or needing to go and tend to a father or a parent figure. And then Venus will oppose Uranus as well. So Venus, which is your chart ruler, opposes Uranus, and that can indicate that, you know, they're just not pleased with whether or not they're feeling supported. So if they're going through some kind of crisis or they're going through something and they feel like, you know, they need you and you don't know how to respond to the situation, when Venus makes the opposition to Uranus, there can definitely be a lot of friction in a relationship. Now, obviously, you are Venus as well as the 6th house, and this tells me that this can be airing out issues that the partner has been thinking about for some time, and now they're finally coming out with it and kind of telling you what they think or how they really feel. Yeah, it can also be with relationships with people at work, like coworkers and stuff like that. And having to kind of just speak your piece and say like what's not working or what's not been working. Then on the 6th of the month, Mercury will conjunct the South Node, and that will also be in the 7th house. All of this is other people, okay? It's who you're married to, it's a client, it's somebody that you do business with, like this is other people. And it's all going to be about whether or not you respond to craziness well this month and like how much you allow other people to kind of affect you. But when Mercury conjuncts the South Node, this is more about children and like whether like they're stressed out about kids or if there is some tension as a result of like a partner responding to you being a little too friendly with another person. So if you're being friendly with someone who you work with or somebody who you used to date, you know, just be open and honest and transparent about some of this stuff. Otherwise, there can definitely be a lot of tension going on in a relationship. This same day, we're going to see Venus then come into a square with Saturn. So this is about, you know, things in regards to your career, your health, your schedule. And it can be like a client or your partner being like, this isn't working for me. We need to change things. I need more help around the house, or we need to hire somebody to kind of fix something. And you're like, I'm busy. I've got work stuff going on. And they're like, I don't care. I need you to figure this out and kind of help me so I'm not dealing with this by myself. So you'll, like I said, you're going to see some intensity from other people this month. Other people having crisis, and I would say Taurus, you know, other people having a crisis does not necessarily mean it's a crisis for you. So it's about how you're handling others and letting them know like where your boundaries are with the squares to Saturn. On the 8th of the month, we have a lunar eclipse that's going to be in your sign. And it's going to be at 16 degrees. So when the moon's in your sign, usually you like it, especially when it's conjunct the North Node, getting in touch with your own emotions, your own feelings, but it will also conjunct Uranus. And I think that this is a lot of you being like, this is not my responsibility, or I quit, or I can no longer handle this expectation. Like you're going to see that you're going to be very moody. And you're going to be very sensitive. So take it easy around the 8th as this happens, because the moon will be in your sign in opposition to all of this Scorpio and a square to Saturn. So this can be being like, I've got a lot of work stuff going on. I'm stressed. I can't be dealing with relationship problems, or I can no longer work with you or work for you. That kind of stuff can come up. The same day, there's going to be a Sun-Mercury conjunction that is happening in the sign of Scorpio. And so the Sun deals with home and family. Mercury deals with romantic relationships and home. So I see two potential situations setting up. One is a partner's being super all over the place because they're stressed out about kids or they're stressed out about your relationship. Two is that in some situations, Taurus, partners can actually find out that they're pregnant, and they might be like, hey, I'm pregnant, this thing happened, and you're like, what? As all these planets come into opposition with your North Node and Uranus. So watch for that. That can definitely be a thing. Keep in mind the eclipses in your 7th house is about partners' bodies, right? And you've got now Jupiter that's in your 11th house, which is about anything in regards to like their relationships with children. So for both Taurus and Scorpio risings, these are things that can be happening in this next month. The Sun-Mercury Cazimi is going to be about some information being revealed, and it can be somebody saying also, I love you, or I want to be with you, or, you know, go out to dinner with me. Something like that can happen very unexpectedly. And Mercury will make an opposition to Uranus. So this is about, once again, dating, love, romance, and Uranus is about work. Watch, there can be somebody at work also that can be like, I'm in love with you, and like you're like, whoa, what? I'm married. Like, I can't do that. Like something like that can happen also, where you're kind of getting the attention from somebody at work or in the professional sphere that you were not anticipating. It can cause some real stress with partners, so be careful. On the 9th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio opposes Uranus, and if there is some funny stuff going on, partners are going to not be okay with whatever was happening here. There can be some tension in the home base, and you may find yourself at odds with a relationship. Could be a partner, could be a family member, could be a parent. The same day, Mercury will come into a square with Saturn. So this is Mercury, ruler of children and romance, in the 7th square Saturn. So you guys have a difference of opinion about responsibility or timing or your ability to support one another. And there's definitely going to be a meeting of the minds here, Taurus. On the 11th of the month, we then see the Sun in Scorpio still in your 7th house, and it's coming into a square with Saturn. And so I could see this as like giving or receiving an ultimatum from a partnership or from a client. Somebody's like, you either do this or I'm out. You either do this or I'm done. And definitely a lot of tension in regards to your professional life and also your relationships, and feeling like you're between a rock and a hard place and you don't know how to balance both of these things. So take it easy, because like I said, with this eclipse, you're going to be very emotional throughout the month. This same day, Mercury opposing Uranus makes me feel like there is definitely a difference of opinions about how you're handling either a relationship or a creative project, or maybe even children. So the Sun square Saturn represents you feeling like there's going to be challenges in being able to complete some of these projects or being able to find the balance between your professional life and your relationships. Things get easier on the 14th as the Sun comes into a trine with Neptune, and so there can be a sense of like reconciling and being able to kind of like refine the peace and kind of balance things out a little bit better. And maybe, you know, there's some support that comes from like a friend or somebody in a social group to kind of help you, you know, work through some of the stuff that's been, you know, going on in regards to your relationships. You might make a phone call and say, hey, I need some insight, you know, can you tell me what you think, or something like that. Maybe you hang out with friends to kind of smooth some of this stuff over. Then on the 15th, we're going to see Venus will come into a trine with Jupiter. And so maybe like there is a third party that like brings you and another person together to make amends. Maybe there is a sense of being like, we need to go out and have a date night and just kind of smooth this over. Spending time with, you know, our collective group of friends, going to dinner, going to a movie, something like that. But Venus, because it does rule your chart in the 7th, makes me feel like there's lots of love and support that's going to be coming from friends if you are having some issues in your relationships in general. And likely there's going to be somebody who's going to give you like some good guidance with that Jupiter trine. All right, so now we have on the 19th of the month, Mars and Gemini squares Neptune and Pisces. So Mars in the 2nd house is about your spending habits. Mars rules your 7th of partners, and it also rules the 12th house of the hidden realm. So things that you're doing with money and not telling partners. That's definitely the vibe that I'm kind of getting, like where you're taking risks and stuff with stocks or with investments and whether or not other people know what you're doing. If you're stressed out about money and resources and spending, especially because Mars is going retrograde in your 2nd, there might be a need to slow down on your spending habits and, you know, just kind of taking care of business. And there may be a need to talk to a partner about this, where you're cutting back on your spending or, you know, how much you're buying, especially when it comes to like vehicles, right? How much you've spent on a vehicle, if you've recently taken a vehicle out, or whether there's some unexpected, you know, costs that are kind of coming up and you don't know how to talk to a partner about that. Budgeting is really important this month with that square. Look back on October 10th through the 14th for more insight as to what was going on then. But still, it's about your money and your financial concerns and where other people kind of come into the mix on that. On the 21st, Mercury will conjunct Venus in Sagittarius. So we'll have your chart ruler Venus go into the 8th house, which is really kind of sexy and taboo and things in regards to merger and sensuality. Having a lot of fun, maybe sexiness on the go, on vacation even. And then you've got the conjunction to Mercury. So this tells me you definitely are talking to a partner a lot about joint resources and investments. But it also tells me that there's an opportunity with this conjunction to be more transparent and open and honest and be practicing more intimacy, opening up about financial situations, credit scores, you know, how much debt you have, how much money you have saved, you know, what you're going to pay off. And there can be important conversations coming up about that. Anytime Venus comes into conjunction with anything, you need to know because it rules your chart. So I'm curious to see what that is because it's definitely about money and something kind of secret being unveiled. On the 23rd, Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So Jupiter will go direct in your 11th house, which deals with friends and associations, anything in regards to, you know, goals, right? So you might find that, you know, friends from the past have come back, you've reconnected with them through this transit, and there's more opportunities for you to socialize and spend time with some of these people. And some of your goals may really fully come into fruition as you're seeing not just the station, but also trines from your 11th house to your 7th. And finally, on the 30th, you're going to see Venus in Sagittarius, which will be in your 8th house in opposition to Mars retrograde. This is interesting. So this is your money, and this might be about paying things off, balances, mortgages, loans, things like that in opposition to Mars. So can be a little tension between you and another person in regards to financial situations and like figuring out a way to kind of move money around or get, you know, the bills paid. There may be a feeling of like needing to separate resources and finances, or there needing to be more transparency in regards to joint spending. A Mars-Venus opposition ain't all that bad, though. I mean, I think that you have a ton of planets in your 7th that's still trining your 11th, so there is a lot of togetherness. But those of you guys who are Taurus and Taurus risings who are going through separations, it literally may manifest as being like, okay, we have to legally separate accounts. We have to legally remove names from, vehicles. Like there is a need to kind of take, names off of credit cards, whatever. That's how the Mars-Venus opposition could happen. Be open and honest about your spending habits though, because that's what's going to get you in some trouble if you're not being honest. Like you're going to see that there's going to be some friction that's going to come up with a partner, and they're going to be questioning like where the money has gone or like what you've done with stuff. And whether or not you have made some bright decisions when it comes to your joint resources. Like I said, you've got that lunar eclipse on the 8th in your sign. You'll feel that. You're already feeling that now, but a couple days before, a couple days after, just be mindful there's going to be some intense things going on between you and work or you and partners. You're going to be more sensitive than usual. And on the 23rd, there is going to be a new moon in Sagittarius in your 8th house, where you're planting seeds for the next 6 months when it comes to joint resources, bringing more in. So across the board with all of the, all of the signs this month, where there's friction, there's opportunity to kind of unveil something and get more clarity and be more honest and direct about stuff. So if you're needing to do that, you may see that come about as a result of some friction that you're having with other people. Professional and romantic breakups, separations, these things can happen because of these squares that we're having between Saturn. So whether it's like breaking up with your job, breaking up with your spouse, breaking up with your boyfriend, whatever, you're not going to always see some of the best in other people this month, because there's so many planets going through Scorpio in your 7th and conjunct the South Node that you might just kind of be like, man, it's just too much for me to deal with partners in the month of November. All right, so let's see what the cards have in store for you, Taurus. Not surprised by this. You get the 9 of Swords, anxiety, stress, sleeplessness, worry, concern. But keep in mind that this is a card that comes up that's about worrying about things that you don't have any control over. This can be about like actual like staying up all night, sleep disturbances, worst case scenario. Where can you better manage stress, and like where can you better focus on like nighttime routines and things that are going to help you kind of get some of your energy kind of better handled in a way. Mars rules your 12th house. So the fact that Mars is going retrograde, like money situations can literally be keeping you up at night. You can be concerned about it or worried about it. And I would say like that's not something that you want to have happening this month, especially with Mars retrograde in your 2nd. Like if something's worrying you, you got to get it out. You got to talk about it. Inevitably, once planets get into your 8th house, you're going to do that. So whether you're the sole provider and you're stressed out that you're having to do that, you don't know if you can do it much longer, or if you are needing to come clean about a financial situation, it's better that you do it sooner rather than later. Okay. Once you manage that stress and you come up with a regular routine to kind of work through this and talk about it, the easier this is going to be to get through. Good luck. We have now got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's going on, Gem? How you doing? This is going to be your horoscope for November of 2022. Now, the month is going to kick off with Venus conjunct the South Node, and that is in your 6th house. So I'm going to say all month long, the first 2 weeks, right? You've got a lot of planets that are moving through your 6th house. This is about your office space, your pets, your daily routine. It's kind of like a hodgepodge of places. But this is about bad habits. If you're sleeping too much, eating too much chocolate, if you're realizing you have a gambling issue or an addiction to sex, or if there's just an unhealthy habit that's coming up, you're going to be more aware of it because you've got so many planets going through your 6th house. Now, Venus conjunct this tells me that it's kind of clearing something out health-wise. The Sun conjunct the South Node tells me that you're also learning that there can be some unhealthy things in regards to how you're communicating and feeling a little mentally frazzled. The Mercury conjunct the South Node also is doing the same thing, and I think that's going to be the most significant because Mercury rules your ascendant, and it also rules your 4th. So you might be like, we got to clean, we got to organize, we got to go to the gym. Like there's like this kick that you're going to be on that's like, I want to clear everything out. It can be about quitting jobs, letting jobs go, having issues with coworkers, or having pets that are having health problems as well. So keep that in mind. as all of these planets come into conjunction with the South Node, we let things go, but it's also going to be opposing Uranus, which is going to be kind of startling. And it's going to oppose the North Node, which is like, hey, we got to clear this out in order to get to where we need to go. The 12th and the 6th house are funky houses because this is like where we see where we can get lost. There can be delays. There can be physical or mental health issues that can go on. And likely things happen out of the blue with the eclipses in the 12th house. So if I were to go through this, first we have on the 3rd, the Sun conjunct, Venus conjunct the South Node. So it's kind of clearing out subconscious issues relating to your love life and children and bringing it out in the air. If you're having like old heartbreak resurfacing and you're needing to clear from that, please do so. There can also just be a sense of you feeling like you need to tend more to your health or your pet's health or your child's health during this time. Then on the 5th, we're going to have the Sun conjunct the South Node, and this makes me feel like maybe some of you guys are thinking about moving, and so there is a need for you to kind of like declutter and start clearing stuff out. Venus in Scorpio will also make oppositions to Uranus, and so maybe just the change in your schedule or the change in your daily environment or some kind of health news that you get is a little rattling. On the 6th of the month, Mercury will conjunct the South Node, and like I said, this is likely going to be more stressful for you because Mercury rules your chart. This tells me that there can be a sense of like getting a document, a paperwork, a report, hearing from a coworker, or getting some kind of news in regards to work or health that can be a little unhappy. And it's going to be really all how you handle this moving forward. 6th house can deal with settlements, and the 9th house can deal with lawsuits. So those of you guys who are having like homing and housing issues, there can definitely be like renters' rights stuff that's coming up and like delays that you're having in terms of moving and going back and forth with like landlords, or there can be literal lawsuits that are going on as a result of medical malpractice or injuries or separation. So these things can happen this month as well. On the 6th, we're going to see Venus in Scorpio square Saturn. Okay, so Venus is your 12th house lord. It's going to square Saturn. And I think that this is about kind of a day where there's a test of faith. There can also be some challenges in regards to your scheduling and your ability to see something through a course or a class, publishing something, traveling. Like there's going to be some scheduling upsets that are going to happen here. On the 8th of the month, we're going to see a lunar eclipse in Taurus at 16 degrees, excuse me. This will be in your 12th house, and likely it's having you go, I need to be in nature. I need to be alone. I need to get away from it all. Like I need some space. You might want to you may feel like you want to hide away and either go for a hike, or you're wanting to kind of be in bed and you're wanting to rest. That's the other way that I could look at this. But this is kind of out of your control. It's like sometimes we have a really wild dream or something just kind of ends suddenly, unexpectedly, out of the blue. Take really good care of your spiritual and your mental health. Like you do need time to rest and recuperate. You need to get into the body, be out in nature, put some plants or some crystals in your bedroom. That's really going to help you with your sleep if you're having sleep disturbances during this full moon. It's going to be in hard angle to Saturn and also planets in the 6th house. So it's making me wonder, like, what's the deal that's going on? Is there some breakthrough in terms of joint resources, legal stuff, or a partner in regards to travel? Any of these things could be happening. But I'm seeing scheduling issues across the board for you, Gemini rising. Mercury in Scorpio will oppose Uranus. So it's like, wait, what happened? It's like you might read the news about something that happened in another country and it kind of startles you. Very much like the mental and physical bodies are affecting each other. So this is a time to detox, purge, cleanse, get rid of bad habits, like focus more on chanting and meditation and anything in regards to getting back in your body and holding space and not letting the world events just totally rock you or challenge your belief systems. Like having faith right now is very important. There will be a Sun-Mercury cazimi in Scorpio, and I think that this is going to be some realization through an email, a phone call, a text message, or a document that something needs to be let go or something needs to change. Those of you guys going through health issues with the Mars retrograde and also the eclipses that are taking place, you may get some really significant news through testing, and you might become aware of something that you need to kind of change in regards to your health. Then we have on the 9th of the month, the sun in Scorpio will oppose Uranus in Taurus. Okay, so the sun rules your 3rd house of communication. Uranus rules your 9th house of distance travel. This is where I think some of you guys are having scheduling changes, traveling changes, or there's some kind of legal lawsuit maybe that's going on that you're kind of having to kind of deal with. And you're feeling challenged, and there's a need to kind of respond via phone or document. Unexpected, out of your control changes either with your health or with your schedule taking place this day. And the same day, we're going to see Mercury in Scorpio square Saturn. And that's why I'm feeling like if you're under the weather, if, you know, like there's delays, if there's things going on, like don't try to manhandle and like strangle the situation. Like if things fall apart or if your schedule falls apart on the 8th, the 9th, 10th, like let it be. Like don't force it, because it's going to bring up a lot of stress for you. Mercury rules your chart, so if it squares Saturn, there's going to be some sense of being like, okay, a delay, a hang up, a difficult conversation that might emerge. On the 11th, the sun in Scorpio will come into a square with Saturn in Aquarius, and so this is bringing up, once again, mental stress, communication issues. Oh my goodness, you know, do we have to move? Do we have to buy a new car? How are we going to make time for this? Because the squares are so strong in your 6th, your 9th, and your 12th house, this is about organization, details, delays. This is about the higher mind, philosophy, travel, education, legal stuff. And this is about things that drive you crazy and stuff that's kind of out of your control. So like I said to the other signs, the first 10 days of the month is a lot of like, this lets go, and this affects this, and this affects this. To me, this makes me feel like your philosophy on life is changing, and you know, some of you guys are going to have breakthroughs where you're going to suddenly believe in something, and other people are going to be like, I can't believe this anymore, or I can't be in alignment with this anymore, or this doesn't, you know, I don't believe in this. So watch for that throughout the first half of the month. Then we're going to see things ease up a little bit after those squares on November 14th, where the sun in Scorpio is going to come into a trine with Neptune. So if you quit the bad habit, quit the job, let go of the coworker, whatever, there is some room for kind of clearing and getting clarity and being able to heal a certain situation and make peace with whatever has happened. Then on the 15th, Venus will continue to stay in Scorpio, and it's going to trine Jupiter. And I feel like if this is like you lost a job, or you got injured, or you quit a job, it's like, you know, a healer steps in, somebody comes in to support you, you end up applying for a job that's like way better. Like something is going to open up and you're going to be like, oh, of course that had to go because this thing came in. And that's really positive for you, Gemini, because Jupiter does rule your 10th house. So I do feel like it's about being more emotionally connected to what you're doing for a living and doing something that's going to bring in like much more emotional peace, which is going to be a lot easier and a lot healthier for you across the board. On the 19th of the month, Mars retrograde in your sign comes into a second square with Neptune and Pisces. So we've seen this really since about mid-October. Look at the 10th through the 14th. Mars in your ascendant is your action, your motivation, your body, the direction you're going in regards to your goals and also your health. It's in a square with Neptune. So there's like a lot of like, okay, well, I quit this thing. Now what? What's my purpose? Where am I going? Take care of your body. You know, Mars retrograde in your ascendant, you're going to have lower energy. You're going to have less drive. There can be a sense of you working through emotional things that are impacting you in general, especially your digestion, your bowels, anything in regards to your reproductive organs, your blood. This is all Scorpio-based 6th house. So if you're feeling super overwhelmed and you don't know what direction you're going in work-wise, like it is smart for some of you guys to take a step back and like really deal with the health stuff and not be feeling like you need to push it and figure out what direction you're going on, you know, with work, or when you're going to go back to work, or what you're going to be doing. Like the eclipses in your 12th and your 6th house are really, really highlighting the need to really focus on your mental and physical health. Like that eclipse that comes on the 8th, because it's in the 12th house, in some situations, it'll send you to a 12th house place, a hospital, a therapy room, a surgical center, a church, because you're going to have like a breakdown, a mental health clinic because you're having a breakdown. These things can happen. So you need to really take care of your mental and your physical health this month, and not be feeling like you need to push your energy levels and just keep going to work, because it's not going to work. Okay. So just trust me on this. Look at what was going on in mid-October. On the 21st of the month, Mercury and Venus come into the 7th house, which I think is your saving grace. Venus is about love and affection and appreciation. It's about your romantic partners and people who come and they step in to kind of help you or guide you. Can be therapists and counselors as well. And Mercury is your chart ruler. So I'm like, okay, if you're in a difficult situation, you really benefit by speaking out and telling people what's going on and where you're having issues and breakdowns, because Mercury and Venus in your 7th house on the 19th, the 21st, will bring people in that's like, what do you need? How can I help you? Do you need somewhere to stay? Like, do you need me to pick up some medication for you? Like, do you need me to call a friend? Like, I'll help you, I'll represent you, I'll loan you money. These are things that are going to come up. So like, you can't be proud. You have to reach out and be like, I'm having a difficult time. This is what I need. And people will come to your rescue if you are willing to ask for assistance. On the 23rd, Jupiter, which has been retrograde in Pisces in your 10th house, goes direct. So you may find out that there's a breakthrough, you finally get ready to launch a business, you finally get ready to accept a new job, you finally realize what your sole purpose is and what you're here to do, and there's like lots of good career goodies that are still taking place for you until the end of December. And finally, on November 30th, both Venus and Mars are going to oppose each other. So you're going to have Venus that'll be in Sagittarius in your 7th house, which is bringing in more partnerships, relationships, people who can help you, especially like romantic partners, or it can be about your relationship with, a lover or a younger person, a child. It can also be you being at odds with a partner about your love life or about children, because Mars is in your sign. I think that it's important to just be mindful that if you add a little bit of love and tenderness, it can really kind of smooth over some of this tension, and it can be like magnetic, and there can be like lots of chemistry and coming together with the right person. As Mars is retrograde in your 1st house, there may be a sense of you like not pushing as much and like letting other people kind of show up for you. But these two planets in opposition can literally mean like you're in a different place as a partner or a spouse, or you're needing to take space from one another. But sometimes this opposition creates attraction, and there can be lots of like sexual friction and like really good chemistry, okay? So if you do find yourself in an opposition with someone, or, maybe you've gone through a separation or you've taken space for someone with Mars retrograde in your ascendant, maybe you realize like you do want to reconnect and you do want to talk to them. And this is also about travel or education or philosophy. So like old teachers, gurus, people who you traveled with in the past, mentors, therapists, like these people can kind of come in and help you kind of redirect what direction you're going in. Like I said, you've got that lunar eclipse in Taurus, and that'll be at 16 degrees on November 8th in your 12th house. So watch for that. Really take time to get quiet and have some alone time. This is a clearing that's going to be happening because it's 12th house to your sign. Likely having trouble sleeping or just kind of feeling a little bit mentally rattled can happen. So get grounded, work with the element of earth, crystals, plants in your bedroom, eating healthy foods, meditating, getting your feet in the dirt, that kind of stuff. And then you have a new moon in Sagittarius, and that'll be on the 23rd at 23 degrees in your 7th house. So new opportunities for new seeds in relationships. Now more on that, but it will oppose Mars and it will square Neptune. So that is going to be a hot ass mutable square. I'll talk about that more during the new moon later this month, but definitely some confusion in terms of redirecting and possibly finding yourself on a different path than some of your partners in general, not just romantic, can be clients, can be people you work with, and needing to kind of redirect your energies and not be focusing so much on other people and what other people expect of you, thinking more about what's best for you in your life, in your routine, okay? All right, Gemini, hopefully that was helpful. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you. I get the Knight of Cups. Pretty positive card, actually. So leading with your heart, feeling emotional, being sensitive, being open. I like that this card is coming up and you've got a lot of Scorpio energy because this does deal with water, and it's talking about being more sensitive and nurturing and generous and open, and being receptive to the love or the support that other people can give you emotionally. So this can be a romantic partner, and it can be more about intimacy and touchy-feely good things, but this can also be about being more open to letting other people love you and support you and help you and talk to you about things, and somebody may come in and just totally sweep you off your feet. You never know. That could definitely be the case as soon as you get like Venus going into your 7th house and in opposition to Mars, somebody pursuing you and wanting to partner with you You're going to see a lot more of this as we get into the end of November, going into December, with a ton of planets moving through your 7th house. And somebody might be really pursuing you, and it might be someone that is sensitive and sweet. Look for water signs too. So it can be, you know, Cancers or Scorpios or Pisces. These are the signs that can kind of pop up for you throughout the next couple of weeks. And I would just say, remind yourself to stay open and acknowledge your emotions, because they do need to kind of go through a clearing at this time with planets in your 6th house. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. This is going to be your November 2022 horoscopes. Hope you're doing well, Cancer. Well, I mean, man, we got a ton of planets in the 5th house. You are a water sign similar to Scorpio and Pisces. So you're going to actually benefit from some of these trines this month. You're just going to notice you're more emotional than usual. That's what I want you to know. And you're probably like, how is that possible? Because I'm on Cancer rising. It's possible. So the month's going to kick off on the 3rd with Venus conjunct the South Node. Okay, so you're going to see Venus conjunct the South Node. So Venus rules relationships with family, home, and it also rules friends. So there can be a sense of reconnecting with old lovers, old loved ones, you know, talking to family about your financial situation, talking to family or friends about your love life and dating. And there can be lots of changes releasing and going on in regards to your 5th house. For some Cancer risings that are older, this can be like, you know, your kids, if you have children, going through some challenges in their love life. It can also be, if you have children, having a difficult time connecting with the children and having to let the kids go, or, you know, becoming an empty nester and them kind of like leaving house and stuff like that. You're going to see a ton of planets in Scorpio highlighting your 5th house, which is about self-employment, true love, relationship, communication sometimes, because Mercury's there. And just a lot of action in regards to your own pleasure. Okay, so the South Node is there. So you're going to see like first Venus, and then the Sun, and then Mercury conjunct the South Node. So it's like you realizing it's a clearing, right, that's going on from your heart space, or a clearing of things relating to trauma from your childhood that's coming up. There can also be like a lot of like inspiration and creative energy that can come through here. Now, even though this is difficult going through the 5th house, it does trine through your ascendant, and all these planets do trine through Neptune and Jupiter. So it's trying to kind of get you to finally acknowledge where there's been some heartbreak, or where there's been some ego issues, or where there's been some challenges in terms of your love life or your children. This is also about taking risks and chances. And so Cancer and Cancer rising, like, not a good idea this month to be playing with the markets, making investments, making risky investments, because there can be losses. So whether you're putting all of your paycheck into a slot machine, or you're putting it into the stock market, be mindful that you could be playing with fire this month. Okay. So Venus will conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, talking to family or old relationship partners. Then you're going to have the Sun conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and that's going to be about issues relating to money and resources, because the Sun rules your 2nd house. So it's like spending money maybe that you don't have. Venus in Scorpio will then oppose Uranus in Taurus. And so that tells me that family may create a bit of drama as a result of something that's going on with you and a friend. Or there can be some drama in regards to you and a friend from the past, especially if they are a Taurus or a Scorpio. Keep that in mind. With Venus opposed, Uranus, there's sudden upsets that can happen with friends and family over money or intimacy issues. Then you will have Venus in Scorpio. Well, let me go back a second. Mercury is going to conjunct the South Node here on the 6th, and then you're going to have Venus in Scorpio that's going to square Saturn. So like if you've had a situation where you were friends with somebody and you were more than friends, you were friends with benefits, this can kind of get a little dicey. If there's been a situation where you have either lent or borrowed money to a friend, or there's been issues with friends over finances, there can be some issues here as well. Venus squares Saturn, it's not going to feel good, even though Venus is technically in a water sign, which is positive for Cancer. The squares to Saturn is like, I think maybe realizing that there can be some bad habits, because the 5th house likes to party. So you might notice like drinking more, partying more, having a good time, having casual sex. You're like, oh, that's not a good outlet. It doesn't feel good. So you want to watch for some of that behavior, because the squares to Saturn are going to make you realize that it's not actually leading you to having the relationships that you want. Then we have on the 8th a lunar eclipse in Taurus, which will be in your 11th house. At the very least, it's going to sextile your sign. So whatever kind of wild stuff going on in regards to your friends, or a great party, or a goal that finally has a breakthrough, it's positive and it's kind of helping you. You know, Uranus and Taurus in your 11th house, you're kind of rubbing elbows with people who are a little bit higher in class, or maybe they're really into art or investments or money. So you might find that you go to a fancy party and you know, you're talking to people about some of your goals, and you're, you know, meeting with people who can kind of help forward some of that for you. But still, lunar eclipses are wild, so there can be some kind of like finale in regards to this tension that's been happening between your friendships or your goals, or groups of people, your joint resources or their lack of, not feeling like you're getting enough support from other people, and then the squares to your 5th house. So if you're self-employed, or you're really talented, or you're in a creative profession, you know, I would say if you find yourself in the right situation with this eclipse, you can basically be trying to sell people on your idea and being like, look, you know, I'm talented, or I have this idea for a business, or you're telling people that you have this creative hobby and you have somebody that may want to buy into it. So that might actually play out in your favor. There will be a Sun-Mercury cazimi happening. So this is like an unveiling also through a conversation that you likely have with either a younger person, a romantic partner, or a friend, or something kind of some conversation that goes on maybe even on social media through like messaging, or through like a post where some kind of truth comes out very unexpectedly. You may find out that some friends are pregnant this month. That may be happening as a result of some of these oppositions. And then we're also going to see Mercury is going to oppose Uranus. So Mercury, once again, siblings, communication, social media, it's in opposition to Uranus. So it's like there's some kind of really big unexpected news that you find out about, but you find out through a phone call or an email, or somebody posts something and you're like, whoa. And there's a really interesting exchange that you have with them. On the 11th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn. And I think this is where you kind of realize that you can't write checks that you can't cash, or that, you know, you can't be spending money that you don't have. There's also probably going to be a realization about like a bad habit or something that's going on that you're eating, or something that you're doing that you're like, I can't keep doing this. This isn't actually making me feel better. On the 14th, the Sun in Scorpio comes into a trine with Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. Things ease up from the 14th on for all signs. I think that that's when you kind of start to realize like there's a bigger picture. Maybe you're finding some emotional relief. Maybe you're starting a new faith or spiritual practice. Maybe you plan a vacation or a trip so you can just kind of get away from it all. That's very possible then. And you start to realize like what the bigger picture is in life, and you're feeling a little bit more optimistic about what could be. For a lot of signs this month, there's going to be this feeling of like relief. Like once we go through the tension and like the drama of the first like 2 weeks, we're going to be like, okay, well, it finally came out. So like I can rest, you know, even if whatever comes up is really difficult or kind of uncomfortable. On the 15th of the month, we're going to then see Venus in Scorpio trine Jupiter in Pisces. So really wonderful, because Venus is family. It's also the past. It's your home situation. It's friends. Maybe you're feeling like as a result of whatever kind of got kicked up early in the month, like things are kind of getting cleared out, and you're feeling much more optimistic and positive, and you're feeling like you have more support emotionally. Great time to plan a vacation, or talk about going somewhere with family, or going and visiting family somewhere. That can be really wonderful during that transit. Then on the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini is going to come into a square with Neptune. So this has been more challenging for Cancer risings, having Mars, which rules your career, in your 12th house. Like you're kind of behind the scenes. Some of you guys are traveling and working in other places. Some of you guys are needing to work in back rooms, or you're looking for office spaces. Some of you guys are not working and it's driving you crazy, and you really want to be working, but you're trying to kind of strategize with Mars retrograde. Just know that like at the end of December, Jupiter is going to go back into your 10th house. It's going to expand your career. Spring of next year, the North Node moves into your 10th house, and you start having eclipses there in April. So a lot of what manifests for you in the new year is going to be as a result of what you do with this period now. What you're really thinking about, what you're working on behind the scenes. Are you putting together websites? Are you writing behind the scenes? Are you starting to strategize your business plan? Like, even though you're not seeing the forward momentum that you want, it's all about what you do with this time. And like Mars in the 12th house, if you don't have a mission or something that you're working towards, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you're just going to stay in your home or your apartment. You're going to do circles and it's going to drive you nuts. So my advice is find things that are going to get you inspired. Create a vision board, start putting stuff together, call people, ask people if they want to help you, especially if you have like family members or siblings you want to work with, and start putting the pieces together, right? That's what you want to do while Mars is in the 12th house. Now, the Mars square Neptune is, are you maintaining the faith that you have the skills or the capability to do it? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to get a license to make changes in your career? Do you need to join a private group or a collaboration to be able to work on some of your talents to be able to bring this full circle? Possibly. That may be possible. Look at the 10th through the 14th to kind of get an idea of what was going on then. Mars will be retrograde until January, and it'll still be in a square until Neptune, clear until March. So this is going to take time to kind of work out until there's some grand reveal that's going to be happening for you in the spring. On the 21st of the month, we have Venus conjunct Mercury in Sag. So Venus will move into your 6th house. We will also see that the Sun and Mercury are kind of close behind. When we see that Venus and Mercury are conjunct, we're communicating and talking about what it is that we love. I feel like this is organizing your space or organizing your home. You might be cleaning something out. Perhaps something that goes on where you're working from home more. You find a space that, maybe you organize something in your home where you have more space to work. It can be new, comfortable spaces also at work. So new offices, new jobs, things like that. More pleasure in your daily routine. And I also feel like this is going to be really good because it's also going to be trining your midheaven. So you have the opportunity to either find a job, get a job, or find a space that you enjoy working in. Your day-to-day health and stuff becomes more pleasurable as well. So maybe you're learning more about diets and like how you can kind of work your routine if that's something that interests you. Mercury rules your 12th house. So those of you guys who need aid or therapy or healing, or if you're also wanting to kind of just bring more spirituality into your daily routine, this could do that. On the 23rd, we're going to see Jupiter go direct in the 9th house, and that's going to be pretty powerful because it's going to be really opening up, making you more aware of your daily health and what is possible, what you believe in, where spirituality can actually help you find the balance in your daily routine. So getting back into spiritual cleansing or, lighting your candles or chanting or prayer can really help you kind of find the faith in the midst of this time. You'll notice that through Sag season, as planets move into the 6th house and it opposes Mars and it squares Neptune, that like you're going to need this to be able to maintain your sanity or your health. And staying organized is very important. But when Jupiter goes direct, maybe you get some good news. It can be in regards to your health or maybe a lawsuit, publishing a book, or getting accepted into a program. And traveling will go smoothly as well. And then finally, on the 30th, Venus in Sagittarius opposes Mars retrograde in Gemini. So Venus will be here in your 6th house. It'll oppose Mars. So this tells me just like scheduling challenges in regards to work and also family, and that there can be a sense of like finally trying to find the balance between these two things. I will say that like health, work, organization, these are going to be the top priorities when you have planets that are in your 6th house. With the opposition to Mars, you might feel like you don't have the energy to do it, or you're feeling sluggish, or you're feeling like you're hiding out and you don't know how to actually make change. So, look for that tension, but for the most part, I think that it is really highlighting until you have a plan and you come up with a plan and you're consistent, you get organized and you get things kind of cleaned up. It's only then that you can start to move forward. So if you need to tend to organization or health things, you need to do that to be able to kind of work more efficiently, And I feel like most of the work stuff that's going to come for you guys is in the spring. So if you're looking for a new job, sure, you might have that after the new moon, but it's a lot of like finally getting things organized and cleared and cleaned up, health or mentally wise, so that way you can actually show up and do the work that you need to do. Like I said, you're going to have a lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 8th, and that'll be at 16 degrees. So watch for some kind of sudden change and transformation with friends or your goals. And then we're also going to have a new moon in Sagittarius at 23 degrees, and this will be on the 23rd. And this is where you set new intentions in regards to your health, your workspace, making more time in your schedule, especially if you're wanting to make more time for travel or for some kind of continuing education. Okay, let's see what the cards say for you. I get the Page of Swords. So communication is something that you're working on this month. There's lots of like learning new things. It can be dipping your toe into new techniques or some kind of training. Pages are learning this energy. It's brand new for them. So it's something that they're just learning how to initiate. Short exchanges, short trips, back and forth conversations, emails, text messages. It's like you're learning how to express your needs more this month. There may be more back and forth with younger people, and this can be air signs, so look for like Geminis or Aquariuses or Libras to kind of factor in this month for you. It's interesting because you have Saturn in Aquarius in your 8th house, and these eclipses and also the squares are going to be about how you're combating change, how you're handling things from a psychological level. So I think maybe like journaling could be a good exercise for you this month, or talking to somebody and getting some feedback, or starting to become more forthcoming about what you're finding challenging. So that way you're getting a lot more clarity mentally, and you're able to feel like you can kind of get the point across a little bit easier. But pages, like I said, are brand new energy. So you're learning how to do something new. So between like the Mars retrograde in your 12th, planets in your 6th, I mean, I feel like this is you going like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I'm acknowledging it. So how do I get help? Or how do I tell people that, you know, I need assistance? Or, you know, how can I learn how to kind of remedy this situation? So be willing to speak up. And that's what's really going to help you for the month ahead. Good luck. Okay, so we have now got Leo and Leo rising. This is going to be your November 2022 horoscopes. Welcome, Leo. I hope you're doing well. Well, Scorpio season is going to be real. So I know that I have said this to you during all of the fixed sign months, but this is why I always say this to you, Leo. With the North Node in Uranus in Taurus, there is this need to kind of climb in the career realm. You know, you're just going bigger, you're making the changes. It's like go big or go home. With Saturn in your 7th house, you have been dealing with all kinds of karmic baggage, either with your romantic business or friendship partnerships. So there's been some hang-ups, some delays, some issues here. And with the South Node and now a ton of planets moving through Scorpio, you're releasing and letting go of something. Something in the family, something from the past. Maybe it's your home, maybe you're relocating. And because you have either your sun, moon, or rising in Leo, when we see planets get into Scorpio, it reignites this grand fixed cross. So it's very similar to some of the energy that we saw right around your birthday. So I know July and August were uncomfortable. I am excited to announce that outside of like maybe a little bit of February, March, this is really the last kind of peak period where things are going to feel very intense. Okay. It will get easier. So let me break this down and make this a little bit easier to kind of digest. Ton of planets in your 4th house. Okay, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the South Node. This basically means that there is a lot of action in regards to your private life, your home, your family, or the past. Scorpio does deal with death. So whether you're selling a house and saying goodbye, whether you're moving out of a place and you're breaking up with a partner, whether, you know, somebody in your family transitions, whatever, you're dealing with endings in regards to your home and your private space. Okay, the South Node is also indicating this as well. So it's uncomfortable. Sometimes there are, you know, funerals that happen with this energy. Sometimes there are saying goodbye to homes and you're not ready to do it, whatever. Just know that it is emotional for you, and it's important for you to be processing and being present with the emotions. There can be some strife that comes up with family here as well, especially in regards to family and money, in regards to home or property dynamics. So if you're dealing with paying the bills with a significant other, or paying the bills with a sibling, or you're breaking down and you're kind of dividing things up in regards to responsibility, like you're not gonna be able to make everybody happy this month, okay? Now the Sun rules your chart. So the Sun going through here, conjuncting the South Node, means that you might break off from a family member or from a parent. But the first conjunction to the South Node is actually gonna start on the 3rd, and this is gonna be when when Venus conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio. I think this is you having a heart-to-heart conversation with a parent or a family member and being like, this isn't working for me, or I'm moving, or I'm going to be in another place with another person. Then on the 5th, you're going to see the sun conjunct the South Node in Scorpio. So you're kind of releasing your control or your energy or your feeling to need to be present in a home or a living situation. The same day, Venus in Scorpio will oppose Uranus in Taurus. So this can literally be a woman in the home or whatever that's like causing some conflict in regards to the fact that you're making a change in the home or the family life and you're choosing your career over the family. So it can be like, what do you mean you want to pick up and move because you got a new job type of vibe. On the 6th, you're going to see Mercury conjunct the South Node, and this is going to be about money situations. So you might see like a tip for a tat. So somebody might be like, well, if you're leaving, I'm keeping the furniture, or, you know, if you want to go, that's fine, but I'm not paying the extra money for the rent. So there's going to be some back and forth that you're going to have about like financial situations, which can get a little annoying. The same day, Venus in Scorpio will then square Saturn. So it's like, Leo, you can't please everyone. Okay, you need to understand that. And I know it's going to be really difficult for some of you guys because some of you guys are going to make hard decisions where you're going to be putting yourself or putting your career first. But you can't make everybody happy. So whether it's a partner or it's an in-law or whatever, somebody who's like, this isn't fair, I don't like this. The 2 top priorities right now are your career and also anything in regards to making sure that you have good relationships on your side. So whether this is friends or romantic relationships, you want to make sure that these are people who are, you know, you're in good standing with, and it's a fair kind of balanced exchange. I think that the Venus square Saturn is like, okay, if you're not ready for commitment, if you're not ready to move in, if you're not looking out for what's best for me, if you can't be happy for me, I got to take space from you. And this is definitely going to be with somebody either in your family or your relationships. Then on the 8th of November, we're going to have a solar eclipse a lunar eclipse, that's going to be in the sign of Taurus. So it's a full moon, completing what's been 6 months of you planting seeds in regards to your professional life and your career. So there's some like big breakthrough. Maybe you get a job, maybe you quit a job, maybe you get a job in another city and you got to move. I've seen this for a lot of Leos. That's like, for me to expand my career, I got to move to this place, and which means like I got to tell my, you know, partner they're either, you know, moving in or I'm breaking up with them, and I got to leave my childhood home. It's like the fixed square stuff that's kind of going on in your chart. This is one to watch, okay? Because the North Node and Uranus and the Moon are all coming together. So there's some shocking, unexpected events going on at work. This can be you suddenly getting promoted, or this can be you getting laid off. It really depends on your personal chart. But there's going to be lots of stuff going on in the work sphere that is very unexpected. The same day, Mercury in Scorpio is going to come into oppositions with Uranus. So there's going to be unexpected conversations that are taking place. And it's going to come into conjunction with the sun. So there's going to be some information that's going to come out within the family about money, resources, finances, stuff like that. And then Mercury will oppose Uranus, and there can definitely be like some stress in regards to negotiating what could be raises at work or negotiating relocation fees if you're going to be moving to another place. And something about your home and your job are going hand in hand. And it seems a little stressful, but you're going to have to kind of work it out and find the best solution for you that's going to help you continue to expand your career, even if that means making changes in your home life. On the 11th, you're going to see the sun in Scorpio. So the sun in the 4th house come into a square with Saturn. And this is more difficult conversations that you're having with either your relationships with relatives or with a partner. And it can be like you going, hey, I got this job offer across the country and I'm going to take it. And I don't want to be in a long distance relationship. So we're done. And this may be the grand finale in regards to some of the challenges you're having in regards to your relationships. Now, by the same token, okay, sometimes these squares can be positive. It can be like, I got the job, I'm moving, and they're like, I'm in love with you, I don't want you going anywhere. And you're like, okay, so what does this mean? Let's be together. I'll move with you. Let's get married. These things can happen. So there can be breakdown before there's breakthrough. I'm more concerned about you willingly leaving toxic situations with a family or leaving like old places that you've lived that are not helping you actually expand. You can gain lots in your career and your relationships if you have the right people who are going to help you kind of grow in these areas. But the sun square Saturn you're going to feel, and that to me feels like very much like ultimatums that you're having with partners. Then you're going to have on the 14th, the sun in Scorpio trine Neptune in Pisces. So it's like, okay, I'm healing, I'm clearing. Once I've had that definitive decision or, discussion with another person, now I can kind of, clear things out. There can be a sense of feeling really sensitive, emotional, and mourning because you have to let go of something or someone. On the 15th, Venus in Scorpio then trines Jupiter, and you're like, you know what? Maybe this is the best case scenario. Maybe it is good for me to move out and start over. Maybe it wasn't the right relationship. Like, maybe I am going back to therapy. Like, there's lots of waterworks that's going to come with this, and definitely mourning and releasing and letting go of something. So I would just say be mindful of that. And you might have to like have a conversation with somebody and talk to somebody on the phone, talk through it in regards to some of this mourning that you're dealing with. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini comes into its second square with Neptune in Pisces. So Mars is in your 11th house of goals, friends, and friendships, networks. So friends from the past can come back. You can be reconnecting with people you haven't talked to in a while. And Mars is the ruler of your 9th house, which is the bigger picture or education or travel, and it's in a square with Neptune. So if you're planning trips with partners, like friends in general, there can be a sense of like being some confusion over who's paying for what, or maybe you book a trip and then you realize that it's not refundable and the trip gets canceled, or there's some weather delay and you're like, what do we do? Be very careful with traveling during this date. Like, get refundable stuff is my advice. And also there can be a sense of you opening up and being reconnected to people and talking to people about what you're going through emotionally, and, having some exchange with other people. That has happened on October 10th through the 14th. And I'm wondering if this is like, because maybe you took a trip with a significant other, you realized like something was or was not working and you had a breakthrough, and you're talking to your friends about that. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. But Mars rules your 4th house, and it also rules your 9th. So if you're thinking about traveling or moving in with friends, there can be some rearranging and some changes that are going on there. On the 21st, Venus conjuncts Mercury in Sagittarius. So you're going to have Venus go into your 5th house, Mercury go into your 5th house. Mercury rules your money and your resources, and Venus rules communication. I'm wondering if you're signing documents relating to buying cars, making investments, having raises maybe at jobs. Maybe you're accepting a job proposal and you're signing off on it. Maybe you're having to spend a little bit more money because you're moving. Maybe you're willing to take chances in love. I like this energy actually for getting away and some romantic vacations. So that might be anywhere really from like the 21st clear until, the end of the month. Even with the squares to Neptune, just don't overspend, don't overdo it, don't overindulge, know what you're kind of putting your money into, but you're going to feel more passionate. Great for having fun, date nights, sporting events, stuff like that. On the 23rd, Jupiter goes direct in Pisces, and I feel like this can be sweet because you can get a nice bonus, or there can be like a gift that's given to you, or you get some kind of like just cosmic abundance. Breakthrough is also in regards to your emotional health or your psychic spidey senses. So you might be more in tune to what's going on and empathic. You will see in Sag season that Mars retrograde in your 11th house, square Neptune in your 8th house, and also square planets in your 5th house. Friendships and romance don't mix. So some friends may not like romantic partners. You may see situations where you're in situationships where you're like, are we friends or are we something more? You get intimate with somebody while on vacation. Stuff like that can be happening. And there's also lots of question marks about joint resources and traveling. So if you're back and forth with somebody, because Venus will come into an opposition with Mars, it makes me feel like you're having to have conversations with somebody about moving or about travel and what it costs to be able to keep doing that, right? Being at a distance. And maybe it's prompting you to want to plan a trip with a friend. That's the other way that I look at it. So once again, you have that lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus. That'll be on the 8th of November. Watch out. It can be before or after, okay? This eclipse has been in the making for 6 months, but lots of rumbles in regards to your 10th house. It's conjunct Uranus, which is the ruler of your 7th, which means some of you guys are suddenly like going from being single from forever and, doing one profession to now you're talking about getting married, you're in a totally different job. statuses, right? Statuses and what you're doing for a living or your relationships become much more public. So some people are going to have breakthroughs and go, I'm getting married or I'm engaged. Other people are going to be like, I quit my job and I'm starting my own business. So there's some wild stuff happening both with relationships as well as your career. And even though things are really intense on the home front, for the most part, these are really good things. And it's pushing you forward in both your relationships and your professional life and helping you kind of get more of what it is that you want. Hang in there through the month of November. I know it's challenging, but I also know just being someone who I had a lot of these squares as a cardinal rising sign in my 4th, in my 7th, in my 10th house. And I had it, 2017, 18, 19. And when I came out of it, right, in 2020, I was able to look back and go, wow, that's why all of those difficult things happened. Had to make the changes in my home life, had to make the changes in my career, had to make the changes in my relationships. It was grueling, but it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because I met my husband, I moved, I relaunched a bunch of stuff with my career. So I'm just telling you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you just have to keep pushing through. And where there is tension, sometimes is tension to willingly make change, right? To override fear. All right, so let's see what your cards say for you for the month ahead. I'm very curious. Okay. There we go. Oh boy. I actually pulled 2 cards, but this is the one that came up first. The Empress. What do you love? What are you giving attention to, affection to? What are you growing? In this case, I think it's more in regards to, your career. Although in some cases this is parenting or this is loving yourself or nurturing yourself or really treating yourself the way that you deserve to be treated. It can be about one of the parents, which is not unusual when you have action going on in the 10th house. The Empress is about Venus. What do you love? What are you nurturing, right? What are you doing for yourself? And what are you focusing on giving life or energy to? I think this is really going to pop off also when you have planets going into your 5th house, having Venus and the Sun going into the 5th. You feel more creative. You're feeling like more romantic. This is definitely fertility energy. So keep in mind between planets in your 5th house, still in an out of sign trine to Jupiter in your 8th, which is very fertile. And also aspects to your ascendant. Those of you guys who are looking to start a new business, launch something, develop a new hobby, if you're falling in love, if you want to have a kid, like this is all very fertile energy. So that would be right after the new moon taking place on the 23rd. But regardless, this is about bringing new life to something. So think about where you're having more joy, where you're having more pleasure. And you're going to be thinking about this a lot actually over the next month or so, because planets will oppose Mars and they will square Jupiter, and it's where you can do these things, but actually it's a lot more capable if you're doing it with another person, okay? Good luck, Leo. Let me know. Leave me a comment. Let me know how this month goes. I know some of you guys come back and you watch these as the month goes on just to see how much of this sticks. I'll see you soon. Good luck. Now we have got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? How are you doing? Welcome to November 2022. This is going to be your horoscope for the month ahead. All right, so let me start off by explaining the fixed T-square. We have a lot of planets moving through Scorpio. So the Sun, Venus, and Mercury are all going to go into your 3rd house. This is about totally changing and transforming and getting crystal clear with how you communicate and talk about fear, what you're changing within your mind, right? The 3rd house rules like your neighborhood, your vehicles, your siblings, your gadgets, anything in terms of communication. It also can rule moving, okay? Documents, paperwork, conversations. All right, so in this house, first we're going to see Venus conjunct the South Node. Venus is about losses in regards to money and resources. So you might have to spend a little bit more money on a gadget or on your car. So if you break a phone, a laptop, a computer, if you have issues with also like breaking a lease, like it could cost you some more money. If you're having to move or if you have to fix a car, it's going to cost something. The Sun will also conjunct the South Node, and that's going to bring up some mental stress and like learning how to better kind of cope with loss and letting go. You might have a little bit of a back and forth where you're trying to express your anxiety or your fears with someone. And then Mercury will conjunct the South Node, and that's really important because that's going to be bringing up issues in regards to talking about your fears and kind of getting it out in the open. Now, as all these planets go through the third house, they're going to square Saturn in the sixth, which is going to bring up either health issues as a result of anxiety, accidents as a result of feeling rushed and not having appropriate timing, stuff like that. And then all of these planets are also going to oppose Uranus, which is in the ninth house, which is also the ruler of the sixth. If you're driving, make sure you're insured. Make sure that you have insurance documents and paperwork. Make sure you have your license on you, all of that stuff, because this is going to come down to documents and accidents. This is also, if you're rushing through things at work and there are problems with gadgets or softwares or things like that. Legal and law stuff can happen, especially if somebody is at fault for an accident or for a medical issue. And I could see that because you have the ninth and the sixth house activated. So if I go through this day by day, on the November 3rd, Venus will conjunct the South Node, okay? And that can be about stuff in regards to financial losses, also issues with insecurities and how you communicate those. On the 5th, the Sun will conjunct the South Node, and this is where you start to see some of your bad habits or your word vomiting that could happen, or you're learning how to kind of communicate your fears and you're getting out with it. And then you're going to see that Venus will oppose Uranus. And once again, this is going to be stuff possibly even involving like money that you're spending either on travel or on education, and whether or not maybe some of like your loans are going to be forgiven. On the 6th of the month, we're going to see Mercury conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and that's going to be the one that's really going to affect you, because there may be some realization through a conversation or a document that it's time to let something go. And Venus will come into a square with Saturn. So it's trying to get you to kind of heal something and maybe make changes in terms of your mental health or how you're communicating with yourself if it's affecting your self-esteem. On November the 8th, there's a lunar eclipse taking place in Taurus, and this will be in your ninth house. Now, it's positive for you because it does trine planets that you have in Virgo or your ascendant, and this is about the bigger picture of your life. Ninth house, foreign travel, education, law, publishing, anything in regards to your belief system, your philosophy, these kinds of things. Now, this is an eclipse that is going to obviously oppose the Sun and Mercury, so that's really significant because I feel like this is about you having a breakthrough because you communicate where you're afraid of something and you're afraid of growth, or where there's changes in your belief system. And there's going to be a Mercury Cazimi, which is really important for you because this is about something unconscious becoming conscious that you're going to talk about or you're going to become aware of. Watch vehicles, documents, social media. There can be something like that that suddenly kind of pops up, and you might realize that there's some insight that you have about an exchange that you're having with somebody online. And then Mercury will oppose Uranus and Taurus. So this tells me that there's going to be a difference of opinion, of philosophy, of belief systems, issues with scheduling, traveling, setbacks also with traveling delays in general. Problems at work might arise as well, especially legal issues, so watch for that. On the 9th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio will oppose Uranus and Taurus, and that tells me where it's like there's some shocking events going on and you're reading about it and you're hearing what's going on around the world, and it's like hard to believe, and you're really cautious with where you're getting your information from. The same day, Mercury in Scorpio will square Saturn in Aquarius, so that tells me that you're like, okay, well, this totally screws things up. I'm having issues logging into this platform, or I can't have access to my work computer, and this got broken, and so now like my schedule's all screwed up. So you're going to have some issues there. Then on the 11th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio will square Saturn. So once again, it's like subconscious patterns and how you communicate, and like whether or not you're like letting the changes that are going on really affect your health or affect your daily routine and you get frustrated. Be very careful with all these planets in the third house and the square to Saturn. Like you could have accidents. You can have health issues that come about from this as well. But watch for like negative self-talk or like mental chatter coming up this day. Things get easier on the 14th. The Sun in Scorpio then starts coming into a trine with Neptune. So you're able to work through some of these issues, find clarity, communicate more with a counselor or with a romantic partner. Maybe there's more clarity with whatever the problems were scheduling wise, and you can kind of make amends a little bit more with a partnership. Then you're going to see on the 15th, Venus in Scorpio in your third house trines Jupiter. So that's nice because it feels like there's more stability and security going on with relationships, marital partners, business partners, and you're able to kind of like smooth things over. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini comes into its second square with Neptune in Pisces. So this is much more difficult energy for you, Virgo. Mars going retrograde in your 10th house has you totally thinking about changing and transforming what it is that you do for a living. Some of you guys are in between jobs, switching jobs, or working more than one position, so it's stressful. Look back at what was going on October 10th through the 14th. Likely, this was either like you realizing if I keep working the way that I'm working, I'm not going to be able to have a lot of clarity and time for romantic relationships, or you've got partners saying to you, where are you? You're always working, like I need you. Truth be told, this gets a lot more complex for you in Sagittarius season. So for the end of November into December, like if you've been in a situation where you're working 24/7, you're having problems in a relationship, it's going to come full circle. More on that next month, but just know that things become a lot more complex. If you're in a relationship and you're wanting to have changes with the relationship, you might kind of feel like, you know, it's time to regroup, talk about living in a new place, making changes, that kind of stuff. But I think that there's issues in regards to, you know, wanting to make changes in regards to either your work or your public relationships, and you're feeling confused, you're feeling lost. And you're like, I don't know if I want to be doing this for a living, or I don't know if I want to be in this relationship, or I don't know if I'm ever going to find anyone. Watch out for fear. Don't let fear get in the way. Don't be, you know, dishonest. Be direct. Be forthcoming with stuff, whether that's, you know, people that you're working with or people that you're in a relationship with, and know that more of this is going to pan out next month at the, well, really the end of November going into December. Some of you guys will quit jobs or you will back out of relationships. I will leave it at that, but I think you're trying to kind of feel your way through it right now. Some of you guys really benefit from having like a career coach or a therapist or even an astrologer, 7th house, help you kind of redirect some of your energy so you can kind of better plan where you're going. That square will last, by the way, off and on until about spring of next year. So even though Mars will go direct in January, you're going to see that square is still happening in March. So some of you guys might be giving a job or a relationship that long before you make a change. On the 21st of the month, both Venus and Mercury move into Sagittarius. And this is important because Mercury rules your sign. So Mercury in the 4th house has you thinking about organization of the home, things in regards to where you're living. Venus deals with money and relationships. So some of you guys are like, I'm buying a house, I'm selling a house, I'm redecorating the place, I'm bringing in a designer. Something like that might be happening, and just more action in regards to communicating and talking to your family and being more involved with home or real estate stuff. Going home, traveling home can be nice as well. Maybe you're purchasing tickets or you're thinking about visiting. On the 23rd of the month, Jupiter goes direct, and this will be in the sign of Pisces. So this is going to be all about, you know, more strength in relationships. You've got like a nice month and a half long period where there can be much more togetherness you can have with other people. You're enjoying it more. It's definitely a lot sweeter. So I'm curious to see what happens here. Those of you guys who are single, you might meet people. Those of you guys who are single, you might meet people in other places, or partners from the past can come back. And definitive decisions like, do we get married? Are we in love? Do we want to live together? These things might happen right around the direct date. On the 30th of the month, Venus and Sag, will oppose Mars in Gemini. So Venus is about money and resources, and Mars is about joint resources. And I can't tell if this is you being at odds with an employer about whether or not you're going to get paid more or you're going to quit. I can't tell if this is like you guys being like, it's time to sell the house. We're going to make a lot of money off of it. Let's get rid of it. Or, you know, are you willing to relocate potentially for work, and whether or not a partner is on board. Something about changes with your home and your relationship and your work are it's guaranteed. That will happen between now and December. But I think that with Mars in opposition to Venus, it can be giving you much more drive and desire and willingness to like make the changes at work if it means that you're going to be having more togetherness at home with a partner. So it's like, yeah, I have to relocate to be with them, but I'm going to have a relationship and we can live together. So you're going to have to weigh out those options and really ask yourself which one works. Definitely a lot of talking about joint resources and like who's going to make more money or where it's going to be more affordable to live, or things that you need to talk about before you actually make some more serious decisions next month. Don't forget about that lunar eclipse in Taurus in your 9th house. Like I said, it's the 8th. This is a very unpredictable eclipse. It's going to be quite wild. You know, for the most part, it is positive because it does funnel positive energy into your chart, and it's also sextiling your relationships. but it is very unstabilizing, and likely you're going to find that it's just totally messing either with your schedule, your health, or your belief systems, and it's creating some delays when it comes to legal stuff or travel. Okay, so keep that in mind. New moon in Sagittarius taking place, and that's going to be on the 23rd at 23 degrees, where you're setting the stage for new opportunities in regards to your living circumstances or your home. More on that in this next month, but that moon is going to oppose Mars. It's going to square Neptune. So it's basically really highlighting, hi, sometime between the end of November and December, we need to figure out what direction our relationships, our home, and our career is going. Everything is going to be topsy-turvy, and you're going to see lots of changes. So you definitely want to be listening for your horoscope next month, and listening and expecting that there is going to be a real significant change right around the time of that new moon at the end of the month. Okay, Virgo. Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. What is coming up? What do you need to be aware of? Well, I get the Nine of Wands. This is talking about like overcoming something, challenges, you know, feeling overwhelmed, being the last man standing. When we get to a 10, that's when we complete something. So nines is like, this is a really big challenge. And I think it's also talking about your philosophy, your belief system. Like a lot of this is like getting out of the lower mind, getting into the higher mind, and being like, okay, this is what I have to deal with now, but this is how it affects my life in the big picture type of vibes, right? So if this were me, one thing that I would say just to take into consideration is that you're almost there. You're almost kind of through a cycle, through a phase. Don't give up. You have to keep moving forward, persevere. Know that you will see intermittently throughout this Mars retrograde that it is going to make some positive aspects to Saturn. So you are going to see that your career will stabilize, your health will stabilize, your schedule will stabilize, but you can't give up. And a lot of this, I think, is about being willing to kind of overcome some of the challenges that are coming up right now, and realizing that there is a need to complete something. I think everything comes down to how much time you're spending on things. How much time are you spending at work? How much time are you spending on your phone? How much time are you spending, your life not enjoying what you're doing? Life is too short. So I think the squares to Saturn is making you realize that if you don't like something, you need to make a change. You know, nobody's going to be able to change it but you. And if you do make this change, likely you're going to have a breakthrough. And in the new year, you're going to see more opportunities for happier and healthier relationships. Good luck. This is for Libra and Libra rising. Welcome to your November 2022 horoscopes. Hope you're doing well, Libra. Okay, so there is quite a few things that are going on with Venus right off the bat this month. So just a heads up, it is going to be affecting you. You're definitely going to be feeling this pretty strongly in the month of November, okay? Because Venus rules your ascendant if you're a Libra rising. Excuse me. So Venus on the 3rd will be coming into conjunction with the South Node, all right? So we have got a lot of action that's taking place in the Scorpio area the first 2 or 3 weeks of the month. All of these planets moving through your second house deals with your spending power, your money, your possessions, your self-esteem, your values. So this is physical stuff and how you feel about physical stuff, Scorpio. So first we're going to see, like I said, Venus conjunct the South Node. A little bit more difficult because Venus does rule both you, your body, and changes, transformations, things in regards to other people. So you may notice that there's just more changes in regards to what you're willing to part with, what you're willing to let go. That seems to be a theme with the South Node and the eclipse cycle that's going on in your chart. Venus conjunct the South Node might be a financial loss. It might be letting something go. It might be selling something and making money off of it because Venus also rules your 8th. Then on the 5th of the month, the Sun comes into a conjunction with the South Node. So your goals revolving around money, resources, food, security is somehow changing because the Sun rules your 11th house. This is also this willingness to kind of cut ties with old goals, or maybe even cutting ties with old friends. This same day, Venus in Scorpio, which is in its fall, okay, Venus is not comfortable in this part of, the zodiac, will come into oppositions with Uranus in the 8th. So things in regards to like back and forth with you and a partner's resources, joint resources, spending, things in regards to savings, that kind of stuff seems a little wonky. When Venus opposes Uranus, there can be sudden shocks and opportunity for breakthroughs in intimacy or psychological breakthroughs, or even breakthroughs that are happening in regards to your investments in your relationships with other people. On the 6th of the month, Mercury will then conjunct the South Node, and this represents how you're dealing with loss, like how you're sorting through loss and how it makes you feel mentally about letting things go, and that you're learning that learning to release things is a part of the process of life, and it allows you to go through a change and a transformation and gain more. What if I told you, Libra, that part of what you're going through right now is learning to like break away from like being the sole provider, or breaking away from being the person who always has to buy or spend, or you rely too much on material things for security? If there is an opportunity to release and let things go, to declutter, you have a lot to gain with all of these eclipses happening in your 8th house. Unfortunately, some of these gains may be under the guise of like what you inherit, or what you get from other people, or what insurance gives you, or if there's some kind of benefit that comes through like a joint partnership. So it's not really things that come in the easiest way. There is some kind of like entanglement with other people. This same day on the 6th, Venus in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn. And it's like you're gaining something because Venus is strong in the 2nd house, but you're like, okay, does this really make me happy? So something that you'll notice is your spending habits and your eating habits the first half of the month. It's like, okay, does this make me happy? Does this make me feel safe? Those of you guys who are working through issues of self-worth, or issues in regards to healing the self-esteem, that's going to be like a really, really important kind of theme the very first half of November. On the 8th of the month, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Taurus, and this is wrapping up what has been 6 months of work in the 8th house of your chart. The 8th house, joint resources, taxes, intimacy, transparency in regards to, making money, earning, things that have to do with, once again, death, sex, taxes, inheritance. So I know you're going to hear me say a lot of this stuff over and over, but a lot of this is because we just have all these planets swinging through your spending sector, opposing other people's resources, and squaring Saturn. And it's a lot of like, what do I spend? What do I get in exchange? Does it make me happy? Is my time being spent accordingly? And am I enjoying the way that I'm making money, or is it time to kind of cut ties with something? Yes, for some of you guys, these eclipses are putting the pressure on you to really start looking at what you're doing with your resources, and whether or not it makes sense to cut back on spending or physical goods to have more happiness, to focus more on creative projects, so you can bring in more money in the long term. So for some of you guys, it's like, do I quit my job to start my own business? Do I curb my spending so I have more time, to be able to enjoy my time off? Am I buying less things and wanting to invest more in travel and having vacations, that kind of stuff? A lot of Libra and Libra risings have been working their tail off now. So now that Saturn is direct and it's getting ready to come to the later degrees of Aquarius, you're either still experiencing trines if you're in the 2nd decan, or you're getting ready to have trines if you're in the 3rd decan, which is helping you kind of get into alignment with like what actually is going to make you happy long term. But this eclipse in the 8th house is going to rock and rattle and roll. Part of it's because it's conjunct Uranus, so it's destabilizing, and some of it is also because it's going to square Saturn, and it's going to oppose all of these planets in your 2nd house. Now, Saturn in the 5th has you thinking about your creativity, your happiness, your childhood, your children, your own business. And the 8th house deals with joint resources and anything in regards to partnerships. I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again for a lot of Libra and Libra risings. Lots of friction in regards to joint spending and being self-employed, what you're charging other people versus like how much free time you have. And also stress over finances in regards to children. You, Libra, are one of the signs that I would say you do not want to take any risks with investments or stuff that you're not willing to lose this month. Saturn in the 5th can be taking a chance with markets, but being more conservative. And with the squares to Uranus, you may find that there can be opportunities that can make money, but it might be long-term down the road. So if things are breaking down, you might take a risk and buy a stock and go, I'm going to hold on to this because it's going to come back up later down the road. Okay. Unexpected pregnancies can happen with Uranus squares Saturn. There can also be lots of upsets in love life or issues with children. So you might see any of these things happening during the eclipse. And the 8th house is partners, resources. So there can be some unexpected increase or bonus or something that comes from a partner, from another person. This same day, Mercury will conjunct the sun in Scorpio, and this is like a cazimi in regards to highlighting an intuitive hit or a feeling about a financial matter. Some truth coming to light about the bigger picture with resources. And then Mercury will oppose Uranus and Taurus. So some of you guys may have a hunch about the markets or making an investment, or whether it's smarter to save money, or whether it's time to kind of cut something loose. You have to listen to that intuition. Might come in a dream or from a reading. On the 9th, you're going to see the sun in Scorpio oppose Uranus and Taurus, and this is an anything goes day. The sun rules your goals, Uranus rules gains, and like some of you guys might actually get lucky with this. It might be a day where you're like, I made this crazy investment and it just like quadrupled. It may also be a time where you're just feeling like you want to kind of party and you want to have a little bit more fun. Be mindful with the spending. Like I said, don't risk anything that you're not willing to lose during this month-long period, and watch out for anything in regards to relationships and money, or friendships and money. There can be some tension here as well, like what you give other people versus what you get in return. This same day, Mercury in Scorpio will be in a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So you might realize like, oh, there's some subconscious patterns that are coming up for me. You know, this is bad behavior. I can't do this anymore. You know, for a lot of people, Saturn in the 5th is like getting serious about having fun, or getting serious about being creative, or getting serious about having children. So you may realize that there's just like a sense of having to release and like let go of old habits, old patterns, in order to kind of better go deeper into this 5th house of having more happiness and freedom when it comes to creativity. On the 11th of the month, the sun in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn. So notice this trend, right? All these planets come through the south node. It's like, oh, this is how I used to behave. This is what I'm letting go of. You know, these are the changes I need to make for happiness. This is how it affects me financially or psychologically. That seems to be the theme of what's going on this month. But when the sun squares Saturn, you may feel like there's difficult responsibilities, financial burdens, things in regards to also taking care of a younger person. So once again, it's a lot of like a lot of responsibility running your own business, a lot of responsibility in your love life, or taking care of a baby, and having to step up and like handle something. It can be a younger person in general. For those of you guys who are older, if you already have kids, you might just have more pressure to kind of help your kids financially. Things get easier from the 14th on. So from the 14th on, you're going to see that the sun in Scorpio is then going to start trining Neptune in Pisces. So this is going to like give you more peace of mind, healthier habits, healthier diets, feeling a little bit more comfortable in your body, and feeling like more at peace, and you're getting help for something. So if you need help organizing, cleaning, if you need an assistant, if you need somebody to help you do your taxes, these are things that can come in. And then on the 15th, Venus, which is your chart ruler, will trine Jupiter. So it's kind of saying like, okay, it was worth the investment. It was worth the sacrifice. It's worth what you're paying for something. Maybe you're spending a little bit more money on your health. Maybe you're spending money to have somebody clean your space. Maybe you're paying somebody to do your accounting, but it's going to be money that's well spent because it's going to give you more emotional peace of mind. Okay. Then on the 19th, Mars in Gemini is coming back into a square with Neptune. Mars and Gemini in the 9th house, long distance trips, flights, traveling, education, publishing, teaching. It's in a square with Neptune. And Neptune is in your 6th house of daily routines. So you want to look back at the 10th of October through the 14th. Likely there was some scheduling conflicts, some miscommunications about belief systems, some breakdown possibly happening also in regards to travel, some like having to reschedule some things or move some stuff around and just changing your schedule, which was frustrating. It was a lot of communicating with other people what does and does not work for you, and you're going to see this square again. So the square is going to be kind of active really all the way up until the better part of March of next year. You know, Mars will go direct basically in January, but this tells me that there's like a blind spot and some issues with like clarity, okay? And more of this is actually going to come up again when we get into Sag season, the end of the month going into December. And this makes me feel like for some Libra and Libra risings, like realization that, you know, you're going to be moving, or there's like a change going on with like what you're learning or something that you're writing, and getting on track with a schedule and having to reorganize some things. Let's just put it that way. So watch for miscommunications and misunderstandings, especially in the workspace or anything in regards to teachers, mentors. On the 21st of November, we're going to see Venus conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius. So Venus will move into your third house, highlighting more love and pleasure from books, short trips, vehicles, learning languages, time with siblings, and anything in regards to your neighborhood. And it will conjunct Mercury. So maybe you're like reading tarot cards, really enjoying that. Maybe you're reading a self-help book. You're learning more about meditation, spirituality, like anything where it's this fusion of philosophy, the psychic, spiritual arts, and also learning or knowledge. Maybe you're talking more about it as well. So I think you might find like a podcast or like a book or something that you're really into that really kind of makes you feel inspired. On the 23rd of the month, you're going to see Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So that direct motion basically means that you are finally getting ready to wrap up in December Jupiter's lesson in your 6th house of where you can have healthier habits, healthier daily routines, bigger, better scheduling spaces, and incorporating more time for feeling inspired into your daily life. So it can be a nice opportunity to kind of like finally heal a health issue, work out a scheduling issue, finally find a schedule that works for you, and having a little bit more peace in your day-to-day. And then finally on the 30th, Venus in Sagittarius, so it will have moved into your 3rd house, will be in opposition to Mars in your 9th. Well, you are Venus, so Venus in the 3rd in opposition to Mars in the 9th makes me feel like, is there a little bit of like miscommunication going on with you and a partner? Are you and a partner having to be separate? Are one of you guys traveling? Is one going to be in another place? Is there scheduling or time zone issues? Are you going back and forth with a person at a distance? Are they in another country? Or are you actually taking some space maybe from a partner and you're needing a brief trip? Is there some need to sign documents or paperwork? Are you talking about moving? Any of these things can be happening. But Mars is retrograde, so it is saying you're reevaluating what you thought you know, what you believe in, and this can actually, a little bit of distance can make the heart grow fonder, so I'm not really entirely too worried about it. I will say that there is going to be a need though next month to kind of get on the same page when it comes to either traveling or communication stuff and reorganizing the schedule. Don't forget on the 8th, there's going to be this lunar eclipse in Taurus, which is going to be definitely very active, especially considering it's going to oppose your chart ruler Venus. So be prepared for an anything goes period with money. Money will come and money will go. But you may find that in the midst of having set intentions for new resources, suddenly money comes in, but it comes in at a cost. And that might be your karmic entanglement or your taxes or something else with another person. You know, more money, more problems. And then we have the new moon in Sagittarius. This will be at 23 degrees on the 23rd, and this is in your 3rd house. So it's setting the stage for, you know, what are you learning? What new languages are you learning? Do you need new apps or gadgets? Are you thinking about moving or getting new vehicles? I will say that that's going to be a very complex new moon because it's going to oppose Mars and it's going to square Neptune. So it's more of the same kind of breakdown in terms of traveling, scheduling, and something involving the bigger picture or your education and having to reorganize some stuff, okay? All right, hopefully that's helpful, Scorpio. Let's see what the cards say for you. Libra. Sorry, you're like, I'm not a Scorpio. You're a Libra. Let's see what the cards say for you. Oh, there we go. So I got the 5 of Swords. Miscommunication. People getting their feelings hurt, you know, learning to communicate more directly and being more matter of fact and not feeling like you need to hurt with words. this seems to be a theme with like Mars and Gemini in general. And I think that this is like learning to handle conversations in a much more diplomatic way, and not being aggressive and not allowing conflict to transpire as a result of some kind of mental stress or tension. Lots of planets moving through the second house, touching the south node. So I can see some concern and some fear over financial matters, and where that kind of sends you into a spiral. And it squares Saturn. So there can be back and forth with a partner in regards to joint resources, family in regards to joint resources, and things do get tense. And it's important to really look at and acknowledge where you're letting some things go. I thought these eclipses, just generally speaking, have really all been about like letting stuff go that really needs to go, and that's kind of not healthy for us anyway, and having the difficult conversations and kind of finally ripping off the Band-Aid. And so you may need to kind of talk about that this month with other people, and it's just important to not be combative when that kind of comes up, okay? Good luck, Libra. Now for Scorpio and Scorpio risings, this is going to be your November horoscopes. Those of you guys who are November Scorpios, happy birthday. I definitely am a part of that crew, so hopefully it's a good one for both of us. So the month is quite wild. So let me kind of break this down and simplify the fixed T-square, okay? So that's the oppositions between you and your 7th and the square to Saturn. You will see quite a few planets that are going to go through your first house. So it's bringing attention to your body language, your energy, your drive, your desire. It's all about you. And planets, as they go through the first house, are usually pretty visible. They're pretty active. So there's just going to be more energy and more eyes on you. But when planets conjunct the south node, it's like old ways and old patterns that are coming up that need to be kind of flushed out, that need to go. So you might notice that there is some much more intense, emotional, angry crying, kind of jealous, possessive, suspicious stuff going on this month. And this is coming from a Scorpio, okay? So just be mindful that this is kind of like the last big hoorah that you're gonna have where you wanna get it all out of your system. Mercury is the mind. The sun is more about your ability to control and your drive, and Venus is about like what you love and what you desire. So it's safe to say that over the first 2 weeks, there is this sense of like feeling like you're kind of losing your mind, and your goals are shifting and they're changing, and the way that you can communicate can be really in tune and connected and aware that it's not working anymore, or it can be very difficult and dysfunctional and like you're reacting out of fear. The sun conjunct the south node is representing where you need to kind of be willing to embrace that side of you that wants to change and transform things and start new chapters. And Venus conjunct the south node is this feeling of like letting go of the need to be super protective of yourself. This is the month where you take your armor off. You have to let your guard down. Be mindful of your physical body, the fact that these eclipses are bringing changes with your body, which can be accidents, surgeries, anything in regards to releasing loss or letting go. For some of you guys, it's just old toxic emotions. For others, it's weight, or it's going to be pain, or it's going to be fear. So we're letting stuff go, right? And it's all in opposition to an eclipse in your 7th house, Uranus in your 7th house, the North Node in your 7th house, which means you're feeding very much off of other people. And when you have eclipses go through your 7th house, like you will at the beginning of the month, there's lots of changes going on with your partners, therapists, business partners, clients, marital partners. And they are going through some kind of change, or they need liberation, or they need more freedom. And it's all about how you respond to this. Now, I've said this in previous recordings, and I know sometimes it sounds a little gloomy for Scorpio risings, but the truth is like, look, you've had Saturn in your 4th house the last 2 years, dealing with family, property, home, past, heavy emotional issues. And then the squares to Uranus is like lots of turbulence with relationships, whether that's with people you live with, romantic partners, family. And these 2 planets have been in a tug of war. So what's happening now is planets are coming through Scorpio, and it's asking you to let go of this old, outdated way of behaving and be willing to say, okay, I'm going to let the past be in the past, and I'm going to embrace partnerships and relationships and like letting people in who can help me, whether it's romantic partnerships, friends, counselors, doesn't matter. Okay, so all of these planets will oppose Uranus, which is destabilizing, and square Saturn, which does not feel comfortable. And there's going to be this dismantling period where you realize like, oh, it's all kind of changing. It's all breaking down and coming apart, which can lead to an identity crisis. So take it easy on yourself. We're going to start first with November 3rd. Venus will conjunct the South Node, which means that as you're going through changes, partners or people are going to be more observant through those changes, and they can be there to assist you and they can be there to help you, but you have to be willing to let them in. On the 5th, you're going to have the Sun conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and that represents a loss of control or a loss of energy. Pay attention, because it might be you quitting a job, or you saying, I give up, or I'm done, or I need some space. Venus will make an opposition to Uranus. So whatever you're doing or however you're behaving can set off another person. This can be somebody in your household or somebody in your family. And it can bring about separation. Somebody who's like, that's it, I've had enough. And if you've had relationship problems, they're going to come back full circle this month. On the 6th, Mercury conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, which can represent you acting out, communicating from a place of fear. This will make an opposition to Uranus, and you're also going to see Venus is going to come into a square with Saturn. So like a lot of like you and another person not being on the same page, and like maybe needing closure, maybe needing to move. You and a partner may not agree how you want to decorate the house or what kind of carpeting you're going to put in the house, that kind of stuff. On the 8th of the month, the lunar eclipse in Taurus hits. This will be in your 7th house of relationships, conjunct Uranus, so it's very destabilizing. Square Saturn, which means you're dealing with a home and property issue, karma relating to the home and the family. And it's also going to all oppose the planets in your 1st house. So it's like, take it easy, Scorpio, okay? You're going to have lots of tension, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth with other people. And you may have to literally have boundaries with somebody and say, no, I'm not moving. You're not coming into my house. I can't do this anymore. But it also may materialize as some kind of conflict that comes up with another person, which inspires you to go, okay, I'm going to, react differently or behave differently, or yes, I want to jump into the relationship. So therefore I have to move, or we have to move in together. All of the pressure is between feeling landlocked in your home life and lots of sudden changes in your relationship life. So look at what's happened over the last 2 years. This is the finale. Partners do get restless with this square though. On the 8th, you also see a Sun-Venus cazimi. So there is going to be a conjunction between the Sun, which is about your career, your control, maybe parenting, conjunct Mercury, which deals with goals in your 1st house. So there may be a sense of you being like, this is my goal, this is what I want, like making some announcement on the internet or to the world. This same day, Mercury will oppose Uranus and Taurus. So it's like you might say something and you might make this big, kind of comment or this big grand reveal, and a partner doesn't like it, or they're like, why did you do this? Like, why would you say that? So there can be some tension about letting the cat out of the bag in some way and having a stressful conversation during the eclipse. Keep in mind that eclipses, they will go for weeks. So just because we're having an eclipse on the 8th doesn't mean that it's going to be the 8th or the 9th and then it's over. We're still feeling the eclipse from the end of October, and this is going to be an eclipse that's kind of playing out clear until the spring of next year. On the 9th of the month, the Sun in Scorpio opposes Uranus and Taurus, and this to me screams like battles of the ego, battles of the will, who is in control and who isn't, and whether or not somebody's making changes at work or within the home base, and the tension that kind of comes up from that. Take it easy that day. On the 9th also, Mercury in Scorpio squares Saturn in the 4th house. So there's a lot of like, this isn't working for me, this doesn't feel good, this hurts my feelings, kind of talking about or bringing up the past and having a difficult time expressing yourself to people that you live with or people in your family. So there can be a misunderstanding with somebody in the family, especially like a parent. Things start to get easier mid-month, but the last and final square that you're going to see is that the Sun will then come into a square with Saturn. And to me, this seems about like not getting along with a parent. It could be your mother or your father, and kind of being at odds about something and kind of going back and forth and having a little bit of tension and feeling like you have less control over what's going on within the home front. On the 14th, the Sun in Scorpio will come into a trine with Neptune in the 5th house. So that's softer, smoother, smoothing things over, being more compassionate. I got to tell you, Scorpio, You got eclipses that started on your ascendant. So there was an eclipse at the end of October, and then you have a full moon eclipse in your 7th, which is going to sextile your 5th. For some of you guys, you're having to let go of an old version of you and not be as selfish and be more willing to embrace togetherness with another person, even if that's a new person. Also, I think with now Jupiter that's going direct, and you're going to see planets from your first house trine, both Jupiter and Neptune, a lot of you guys are going to be like, I want a kid, or I am pregnant, or I am in love with you, or let's get married. Like there's going to be this whole like through the friction of like fighting it out the first half of the month, being like, you know, are we fighting the inevitable? You know, should we just divorce? Or, you know, do we need to step up and go to the next step in our relationship? Do we need to move? Do we need to be closer to a parent? Do we need more space to have a child? These are things that might come up for some of you guys. On the 15th, Venus in Scorpio in your sign is going to trine Jupiter. So this can be good news in regards to a creative project, love, or even a pregnancy. And a partner might be saying to you, like, let's do it, or I am pregnant. You might even hear an I love you in there. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini is going to come into a square yet again with Neptune. So we've seen this square once already. Look back at the mid-October period. This was the 10th through the 14th of October. This is important because Mars is your chart ruler. So Mars in the 8th house going retrograde is about a reevaluation of your joint assets, resources, taxes, especially documents, learning to be more open with intimacy and kind of opening up a little bit more. It's in a square with Neptune, which rules your 5th house. This is an extended square. So we're going to see the square happening this month. We're going to see it come back again in the spring next year. Even though Mars is going to go direct in January, we're going to keep seeing that square clear until about March of 2023. So it's this whole like, you know, can I be open and vulnerable? Like, can I expand in my intimacy? Do we have enough money to, you know, have kids? What are we doing with our joint resources and our investments? This type of stuff. And a total change and transformation of your motive with other people, like what draws you to other people, and opening up more and having more intimate conversations about, you know, where you've been hurt in the past and unlocking some things that might actually be hindering you from really leading with your heart. On the 21st of the month, we see Venus and Mercury come into conjunction in your 2nd house. So Venus rules partners. Venus also rules the subconscious. Mercury is going to rule goals. So it looks to me like you're finally having conversations about money, resources, how to find more stability, more spending power. Mercury, the Sun, and Venus are all getting ready to go through your 2nd house. So that's like a really strong period for earning more money, more earning potential, making more sales, seeing increase in just your business or even in your salary. But I think Mercury and Venus, when they come together, it's kind of funky because it tells me that like you're trying to organize and make sense of something, and Sagittarius is what could be. And you'll see throughout this next couple of weeks, planets all go into your 2nd house, they oppose Mars, and they square, which means you may find yourself at odds with somebody else about, you know, your goals in regards to dating, or there's some challenges in regards to moving money around with investments, or how you're going to be able to cover new expenses relating to being self-employed, right? So this can also be like tax stuff. On the 23rd of the month, Jupiter goes direct in your 5th house. And this will be the last time in our lifetime that we're going to see Jupiter and Neptune in the same sign. Very potent, very powerful, especially as we're coming to the mid-Scorpio period, mid-November. All these planets are going to trine. So you might feel more creative, more in love, more open, more wanting to have fun and wanting to have romance and kind of like whimsical, dreamy things. Great for date night, all that stuff. But there may be also opportunities to really expand in terms of what you're wishing for when it comes to your love life, creativity, or children. A lot of people are going to find out that they're pregnant, though, because you're having eclipses on your ascendant and also because you've got Jupiter in the 5th. Then on the 30th of November, Venus in Sagittarius opposes Mars retrograde in Gemini. So Venus will be here. Venus rules your partners. So this is like your involvement with your partner's money and resources, and it's in opposition to Mars. And it means that you guys may have a lot of passion. There may be a lot of like sexual tension, and like there can be like lots of like makeup sex after conflicts. But it also means that you kind of have to put your heads together in regards to how you're handling financial situations. It may, for some people, if you guys are going through a separation, mean that you're actually physically separating bank accounts, physical goods, you know, this is mine, that's yours, I'm moving out, I'm taking the couch, like that kind of stuff, where you guys are kind of divvying things up. However, sometimes oppositions can create enough tension to where it forces you to kind of look at the situation and remedy the situation and communicate. And I feel like the plus side in all of this is that you have Jupiter in the 5th. So love can conquer all. If you have stress in a relationship, if there's fears coming up, if there's financial stress, it's like, I love you, we'll figure it out. And maybe you may have to say that to some people, even in spite of some of the more difficult things that are going on this month. But I do feel like it's going to incentivize you to want to go deeper with other people and learn to actually stay and work through things rather than just cutting and run. Don't forget about that eclipse. That is on the 8th in your 7th. Honestly, you need to go and listen to my eclipse video, because I talk a lot about what's going to happen and how there's going to be craziness with other people. And it can affect your physical home space and like how partners are really pushing for freedom. If you're not in a relationship, somebody can suddenly fall into your life, and it can be something that's really life-changing, but they can live in a different place. You're completing what's been 6 months of learning a lot about relationships here. Then on the 23rd, we're going to have a new moon in Sagittarius, which is going to be about planting seeds in regards to abundance and making more money and resources into the future when it comes to your spending abilities, okay? More on that later in the month. The card that I get is, ooh, the Lover's card. What did I say? I said like love can conquer all, right? Choices, options, different paths. You know, I've seen a theme with some clients and relationships for Scorpio risings that are a lot of like old relationships are getting filtered out, especially if they're relationships you stayed in for too long and like new people are coming in. So it can be saying that there's new options, and like, you know, it's kind of bittersweet because you have the opportunity to kind of start over with a new person. But it means that you have to kind of let go of the past. So new options are being presented to you, both in terms of your romantic relationships, but also in terms of your money and your resources and your finances. And you're going to feel like you're at a fork in the road. And I want to tell you that you need to really focus on like what you love, what you're passionate about. Like there is a need to really acknowledge like what feels right. And even though there can be this overwhelming sense of too many options or getting tempted in one direction or the other, you really have to ask yourself, what do you love? What do you value? That's what you want to hold on to this month, okay? So appropriate as you're having these eclipses in your sign as well. Good luck, Scorpio. Once again, happy birthday. All right, so we have got Sag and Sag rising, and this is going to be your your November 2022 astrological horoscope. Those of you guys who are November Sagittarius, happy birthday to you as well. Hopefully it's a good one for you. Let me explain to you a little bit about this fixed T-square. So tons of planets going through Scorpio. Mercury, you know, the South Node has been there, the Sun, Venus, all in the 12th. This represents like the subconscious self, what happens at night, what happens when you're sleeping, if you're in a foreign place, if you're in a hospital, if you're in a therapy session, if you're in surgery, like whatever. This is about something that's hidden. This is also the house of undoing. When planets go through the 12th house, right before your birthday, there's like this karmic cleansing that happens and you purge a bunch of stuff out. So you might be noticing that there is more secrets, fears, phobias, bad habits, things like that that are kind of coming out in regards to your subconscious. Kind of started getting kicked up right around the time of the eclipses, and you're going to see this intermittently all month long. As planets move through your 12th house, they're going to come into oppositions with your 6th house where Uranus in the North Node is, and it's about health changes, scheduling changes, shifts in regards to your mind, how your mindset affects your schedule and your daily routine, pets and coworkers. And all these planets will square Saturn. So you may feel quite overwhelmed with how to communicate and not really know how to explain to people that you just need a moment, or that you aren't ready to talk, or that you don't have the answers, and you can just find communication more difficult. Also, you are one of the signs that needs to be very careful while you're traveling, because this to me screams that there can be either accidents or kind of bumping in or running into things and having issues with vehicles, or having issues also with just financial delays in general, you know, being able to kind of communicate and work through those issues. Okay, so on the 3rd of the month, Venus will conjunct the South Node, and Venus deals with your coworkers and your coworker spaces or pets. Venus also deals with your 11th house, which is your goals. If you've been working with a friend, or if there has been a sense of like having a new schedule at work, or you're working with new people, you might find that somebody's like, actually, this isn't working for me. I have to change my schedule, or I don't want to work here anymore. And suddenly there's like a, you know, like, oh my God, now what do we do? Like, who's going to fill this kind of position type of thing? There may also be like a conversation you have with a friend about something that you've been kind of hiding or trying to kind of work through that's been really making you anxious. And it can be about a health issue or habit or a pattern. On the 5th, you're going to see that the sun is going to come into conjunction with the south node in Scorpio. Okay. So the sun conjunct the south node is releasing and letting something go, like an old belief system. The same day, Venus will oppose Uranus. So it's like, oh, this isn't working for me. Or, you know, I decided that, you know, I need to take a different path, and, you know, I don't know if I still believe in this. And so there's like a little bit of like a breakdown that you're having in terms of your belief system or someone who you're working with. You might decide to let go of also like a trainer or a therapist or a mentor or maybe even a doctor that you've been working with, and you're like, it's just not a match. On the 6th of the month, Mercury will conjunct the south node in Scorpio, and this is once again bringing some kind of conflict in regards to work and scheduling issues, and you may also feel like there is a need to get some assistance from like a partner or a relationship, and you're like, okay, now I got to talk to my boss, or I got to talk to my romantic partner or my spouse about, you know, the fact that I don't know if I can remedy this situation at work, or I don't know if I'm ready to go to work. I need some time to recuperate and recover. Sometimes when planets go through the 12th house, we go on vacation. Sometimes we end up in the hospital. It really just depends. But to me, this seems like endings, death, crisis, you know, worry, like something that's going on psychologically that's actually hindering you from being able to really participate at work. Then on the November 8th, we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So it's a completion in the 6th house. If you've been trying to get a job, you might get hired. If you've been trying to launch your own business, there might be something that just suddenly kind of opens up for you. An eclipse in the 6th does talk about accidents, scheduling issues, or health problems. And this eclipse is going to square Saturn, and it's going to oppose all of these planets in your 12th house. So there can also be like issues that you're having communicating with a sibling, or with a neighbor. That can happen as well. And there's just some kind of communication breakdown that takes place. But watch your pets, be mindful of scheduling changes and health problems with that eclipse. Now, at the time of the eclipse, Mercury will oppose the sun. Mercury and the sun will oppose Uranus. And you're going to see that there's going to be a cazimi. So it's going to be like something opens up about something that was hidden unexpectedly at work. You know, you have a meeting and you find out, hey, something's suddenly changing, or a woman steps forward and says, oh, this is something that I want to tell you that I've been like hiding or kind of keeping a secret. It can be at work, or it can be in your personal life in general, because Mercury is the ruler of your 7th. Okay, so there's a lot of like letting a partner in on something, or a partner kind of confiding in you. On the 9th, the sun in Scorpio will oppose Uranus in Taurus. Scheduling changes, changes in regards to traveling, changes in regards to your belief system. It can also kind of bring up some legal issues unexpectedly, so watch out for that. That's an anything goes day, and there can be really a lot of like intense back and forth that you're having with another person. Delays is kind of the vibe that I'm getting here. On the 9th as well, we're going to see Mercury in Scorpio square Saturn in Aquarius. So Mercury deals with your business and your partnerships, and it's going to square Saturn. So there can be a sense of like having to sit down, have a conversation, have a meeting, reference a document or something that you've signed, especially if you're like contractually bound to a job, or if you've employed somebody, there may be a need to kind of look over a contract and like have a conversation about whether or not it makes sense to let someone or something go. On the 11th, the sun in Scorpio comes into a final square with Saturn. Once again, legal stuff, travel stuff. I mean, it's kind of like remedying something in regards to a lawsuit, or something in regards to a vehicle issue, or having a conversation about whether or not you let something go. So many planets crossing the south node, it's like there's going to be belief changes, work changes, and relationship changes right before your birthday, Sag. So this may be a little bit more challenging, and it's going to kind of feel, because of the eclipse energy, that stuff is just coming out of the blue suddenly, and it's throwing you off of your routine. And you might notice you're not sleeping as well, eating as well, you're eating differently, or your workout routine is kind of thrown off, and it's really affecting you mentally. Things get easier from the 14th on. So from the 14th on, we see the Sun in Scorpio trine Neptune in Pisces. So it's kind of like, you know, if there has been a loved one, a family member, or you that has had some stuff going on mentally, emotionally, or physically, there is more rest, recuperation, and peace. But this can also be saying goodbye to someone or something. It can be a home, it can be a house, or it can be a family member. So even though those trines are generally sweet, it's challenging. The next couple days, actually on the 15th, then Venus comes into a trine with Jupiter, which is positive because Jupiter rules your chart. And so I feel like this is like having a heart-to-heart with somebody, talking to them about how you feel, you know, releasing and like letting something go. That's one way that I can look at it. But things that relate to being there with family, female relatives, or home and property. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini comes into its second square with Neptune in Pisces. You want to think back to what was going on back the October 10th through the 14th period. Mars is going to be retrograde until January. It'll be in a square off and on with Neptune really until March. And Mars in the 7th house is interesting because you're seeing like through relationships or partnerships with people, people's true motives. So you might find out like there's certain people who you were partnering with or in relationships with or whatever, and you're like, this ain't working. You know, you might start to see that their kind of behavior or the way that they communicate it's not ideal. And it's also in a square to Neptune. So there can be a lot of like, where is this relationship going? Like, where are we going to be living? You know, like, does it make sense for us to move in together? Obviously, Mars retrograde in the 7th brings back partnerships from the past. You may suddenly hear from people unexpectedly. You may have dreams about them. They may, like, issues relating to old relationships may come up in therapy, and like you're working through it and still trying to get clarity. That's the other way that I look at it. But with Mars square both Jupiter and Neptune, mostly Neptune, it's going to be like, you know, where are my relationships going and how are my relationship patterns kind of repeating as a result of things that have happened in my past or happened in my childhood. So some of you guys may have to actually like reconnect with people from the past, talk to family, and there can be a rearranging going on with relationships. But lots of question marks in regards to relationships and where you're going to be living. And just be mindful that Mars in your 7th is pressuring you to show up more in partnerships. As we get to the end of November going into December, all these planets move into your first house. It'll oppose Mars and it'll square Neptune. So it'll be like, am I on the same page with a partner? Do we want the same things? Are we both going in the same direction in regards to life? Like, you know, or is it time for me to undo a relationship and kind of be set free? Or am I going back to somebody from the past? This can get so messy. Like, just hear me on this. You may feel like you're in a relationship with somebody and suddenly they show their true colors and then you get like traumatized because it reminds you of someone you've been with. It can also be a situation where, you know, you're going back and forth with somebody secretly and you're still in a relationship, and then it can get kind of sticky. So be very careful about some of this stuff. Mars rules your 5th house, and being that it's going retrograde, it can bring back a true love, but it can also be about going back and forth about whether or not you're in love with somebody, whether or not you're having fun with them, if you're bringing more time for passion and romance into your private life, or if you are actually on the same page about marriage or children. On the 21st, Venus will conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius. So you're going to have Venus in your sign. Great. Once Venus makes that ingress, you're going to be loving it, bringing more love, attention to you, having more emphasis on self-love and what you need. And Mercury rules your career. So likely like Mercury and Venus is like some grand announcement that you're making at work. There's a campaign. Maybe you post a picture of yourself. Maybe you're kind of like telling people about what's going on in your professional life. And some new significant shift in relationships maybe. Then on the 23rd, Jupiter goes direct in Pisces. So Jupiter is only here for about 2 months. It's expanding your home. It has you more emotional, you know, I think sensitive and kind of questioning where is home and where are you going to be setting up in the long term. It has you really reminiscing on the past and also possibly traveling to foreign lands or returning back home in some way. This will be positive though, because it's expanding your emotional kind of sensitivity, but it's also giving you the opportunity to think more about where you could live and what your life could be like, and reconnecting with your roots, your heritage. Then on the 30th, Venus in Sagittarius will oppose Mars in Gemini. Venus rules goals and friendships. It also rules your schedule. You might be so busy, or maybe you're with friends, or you're prioritizing yourself, that you have some space from a partner. But with oppositions, you know, like, it can make the heart grow fonder. So having space and not being able to be together all of the time can actually be really good. So if you find that it's more challenging to make time for one another, that can give you an opportunity when you do come together for it to be all that much sweeter. I do feel like there can be a sense, though, with Venus being the ruler of your 6th house, that you're at odds about what your purpose is, or what your schedule could be like, or health-related issues or work-related issues with a partner. So you might feel like it's just really hard to kind of get on the same schedule to be able to have time together, and you might feel a little bit at a distance. Don't forget about that lunar eclipse. That's going to be on the 8th in your 6th house. That's a big one, especially with the square to Saturn. Go for walks, breathe, anything like journaling or 3rd house things that can help you kind of calm your mind and stay grounded. And on the 23rd of the month, there is going to be a new moon in your sign, and that's when you're setting the stage for new intentions in regards to yourself. So that's your new moon. You want to use that for your goals, your body, your appearance, your life, like what you want. Focus on that and do not settle. Okay, Sag? Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards have to say for you. I like it. 6 of coins, give and take. I see this as like, what you put out there is what you receive. And if you're willing to put out positivity and help and give back, you're going to receive support in return. Obviously, that's not why you're doing it, but this is about kind of rebalancing the scales, realizing that you're stronger together as a team than you are on your own. And if you're kind of, you know, collaborating and putting in a joint effort, and you're willing to try, and other people in your life are willing to try, you can make magic happen. But also it's about learning when to be like, hey, I need help, you know, or I don't know the way forward, or I need some assistance, or can you help me with a pet, or, you know, can you make dinner? Like, it's learning to kind of communicate and be like, I need help. And if you're asking for it, you're going to get it. And you're going to find that there is going to be a rebalancing in your life that is taking place. Perhaps maybe that's what the eclipse is in your 6th house is. If you need a trainer, if you are going to need a dietitian, if you need a new doctor, anything like that, these people can come in, but it's as a result of you being like, okay, I just need some assistance. And to me, it seems a little scary with all these planets in the 12th house, because there's lots of stuff coming up that you thought you had dealt with and maybe you haven't, and it's still lurking in your subconscious. And the squares to Saturn, where it's also like, you know, you having some issues with the communication breakdown. So when in doubt, communicate, ask for help, reach out, okay? Good luck, and once again, happy birthday. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, what's going on? How are you doing? This is going to be your horoscope for November of 2022. I hope you're well. We have a lot of energy going through Scorpio, okay? So I just want to preface by saying there's just a real highlight this first half of the month with your goals, with your friendships, with networking and associations that you have with other people, okay? Planets are going through here and touching the South Node. So in some cases, people from the past, like friends and other organizations, can come back. Old goals can come back for reevaluation. But there's also a need to let go. So you might be letting go of someone or something. The 11th house South Node is what everybody else thinks. The North Node, 5th house, is like what direction you're going in for your own personal happiness and like self-love and pleasure. So the breaking away might actually be because you're kind of developing your goals, or you're focusing on your love life, or you're taking care of your business, or you are having a baby, or you're pregnant. So it's some shift is changing. When planets all come into Scorpio and they oppose Uranus in your 5th house, you're physically letting some things go. So you might have to physically make space in your house because somebody's moving in, or you may have to physically make space in your house because you're selling things because you need to for financial purposes, or you're making more room for a kid, or for a craft room, or for an office space. And all of these planets are going to square Saturn, which is important because Saturn rules your chart. So there's going to be a sense of like timing coming into consideration, reevaluating your values, Also really thinking long and hard about new talents that you're developing that are going to make you happier and more abundant in the long term, okay? So the month is going to kick off first with Venus conjunct the South Node, and Venus is connected to your career and also creativity and children. So there's this sense of being like, my goals are changing in regards to my professional life and my happiness. Maybe you're talking to friends about that. On the 5th, the Sun will then conjunct the South Node, and there is some kind of like breakdown you're having with a friend maybe, or releasing or letting a friend go. Some of you guys are having to say goodbye to friends who may unwillingly leave or may transition because the Sun deals with the 8th house. It can just be about how it affects you psychologically, saying goodbye to, friends who might be leaving, or their life is changing, or maybe they're relocating. This same day, Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. So this is dealing with like business stuff. Uranus is dealing with money. Those of you guys who have been like trying to work jobs with friends, you might be like, this isn't working, or we're not making money, or I got to go my own way, and I got to kind of break off and do my own thing. On the 6th of the month, we're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with the South Node, and this is about having conversations, I think, with people from the past and friends giving you insight in terms of like their philosophy about life. It can also be a time where you're talking to people being like, hey, I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for some assistance. Can you help me? And through joining a group or an association, or maybe posting online or connecting with a friend, you might actually find that there's some luck there. This same day, Venus in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So it might be like something comes in, but it's like not what you want to do, or it's not the kind of salary that you're looking for. You're like, that's not good enough. It's not really going to work for me, or I don't really feel like it's a good fit because it's not really going to be nurturing my talents. Talent and how much time and resources are a huge theme for you in this next month, so pay attention. On the 8th of the month, we are going to see a lunar eclipse in Taurus, and this is in your 5th house, which is about things that pay off, taking chances, romance, self-employment, creativity, and dating. So I'm wondering, like with this eclipse, for some of you guys, it's like, okay, I'm making the jump. I'm investing in my business, or I'm taking some of money that I've saved and I'm investing it into a market. This is also like buying supplies or investing into something that you're starting that's a hobby. How much money you have to spend also on potentially a child. So those of you guys who are like, okay, we're going to make the investment, or, I am pregnant, now we got to watch finances. Or if you're adopting or trying to have kids in unusual ways, it can be like deciding to go through, IVF and freezing eggs, or like going through a process of also getting like donors and having kids in unusual ways, and what it's going to cost you time or energy wise to do that. Generally speaking, though, eclipses in the 5th house are positive, and it can be a precursor of falling in love, meeting someone, or pregnancy. It's just challenging because it is going to oppose Venus in the 11th, and it is going to square Saturn in your 2nd. So being that Saturn rules your chart, it's going to be like, this is exciting, but this is what it's going to cost, or this is exciting, but like this is going to be a lot of work. For some of you guys, though, it's finally the breakthrough in terms of showing people what you've been working really hard on this last whole year, as Saturn and Uranus have squared. So likely, come the beginning of the month, you already know like where the energy is building and what the buildup is leading to. Okay, so on the 9th, you're going to see the Sun in Scorpio oppose Uranus in Taurus. So the Sun in your 11th house is going to oppose Uranus. Sun is about change and transformation, right? Uranus is going to be about resources. Maybe there's some shift that's going on where like a friend's talking to you and giving you advice about how to find happiness or how to invest your money. Be careful with whose advice you buy with the square to Saturn, though. Mercury in Scorpio will also square Saturn. So there is this sense of somebody being like, yeah, these are your goals, but are you qualified? Are you ready? Do you have the financial means to like go off and do that crazy wild thing and like quit your job? Like somebody's going to give you a harsh dose of reality. That's the feeling that I'm getting. So watch for difficult conversations that you might have. Be careful with borrowing and lending with friends. That's something else. I've seen that with a couple signs because you have, Saturn in your 2nd house of like your resources, and like you're less willing to take risks with money. You're less willing to spend a lot of money on vacations or dates or other things, like you're being as conservative as possible. So friends may be saying to you, come on, let's go and do this thing. And you're like, I can't, I'm saving. I can't do that. So there's going to be a little bit more tightness that you're going to feel financially. Then on the, let's see, the 11th, the sun in Scorpio will form a square to Saturn, and that's about money, resources owed. Maybe there's something that you want to do and then you realize you can't swing it financially, or a partner says, no, we can't spend money on that. That might be a goal, but not right now. From the 14th of the month on, things get easier. So the sun in Scorpio comes into a trine with Neptune in Pisces. So then it's like, you know, there is a way to communicate more softly and effectively. You are more emotional and sentimental. This energy is also going to sextile your ascendant, and then it's going to sextile your third house. So there's some nice vibes going on here where it's like through the clearing and the changing of the goals, you level up, and then you realize that, you know, there's a way to communicate by being a little bit more receptive and open. Then we're going to see Venus will trine Jupiter. So Venus in the 11th house trine Jupiter. You know, there is a releasing and a letting go maybe, or saying to somebody, you know, I'm going to pass, or I'm good, or I can't be there. You may also be like confiding in a friend or a close ally, something that you've been kind of keeping secret, right? But Venus trine Jupiter is generally pretty positive. It might be like somebody's letting you know, hey, I'll, you know, guide you or coach you or connect you with the right person to kind of help you find your way through some of these changes that you're experiencing in terms of, you know, your life in general. Then we're going to have, on the 19th, Mars in Gemini is going to be coming into its second square with Neptune in Pisces. You want to look back at October 10th through the 14th. Okay, this is the last time we saw these squares. Mars will be retrograde pretty much until January of 2023, and it'll still be squaring Neptune until about March. So this is a process. It's going to take time. Mars rules your home and family, and Neptune rules your third house. So I feel like this is about how you're having issues, possibly getting on the same page with family members about their health. It can be a parent that's going through a health problem, or how you're communicating and talking to relatives about taking care of a parent. Maybe it's making changes in your schedule and making time to be able to go back home, or being able to relocate in general. Frustrating is what it seems like. I've noticed with a lot of Cap risings, with Jupiter going into, you know, Aries, some of you guys have had to go home, or you've had to say goodbye to loved ones, or you've had to take over like a domestic situation, or you've moved back in with your parents. Now on the 21st of the month, we're going to see Venus and Mercury come into conjunction in the sign of Sagittarius. So Mercury and Venus will be in the 12th house. Mercury does deal with like health and anything in regards to treatment. And Venus is going to deal with work. So I'm wondering if you're like, I need to take a break from work. I've got something going on. I need to travel. I need a mental health day. I'm needing to go through some kind of testing. It can also be a time you're just making time in your schedule for travel, and you're just needing more rest and recuperation. Watch for your dreams. Significant dreams can be coming about during this period as well. Maybe you're feeling more inspired and you're working behind the scenes. That's something else that you could be doing. On the 23rd of the month, Jupiter goes direct in the sign of Pisces in your third house. So if you've been looking to move, if you have been looking to find the faith, if you have been learning a new language, planning a trip, communicating and talking with people abroad, like Jupiter going direct is going to bring you a little bit of sweetness in regards to the third house area of your life. I've seen a lot of Cap risings be like, okay, I finally decided I'm moving right around this time, or they will. Or that they're finally kind of making amends with relatives, especially relatives at a distance, and kind of having some kind of conclusion. If you've been learning a language, you might finally feel like you've mastered it by this point as well. Good energy for buying vehicles or traveling also. On the 30th of the month, Venus in Sagittarius will oppose Mars in Gemini. So you're going to have Venus, and you're also going to have Mercury and the Sun all kind of coming in sign in opposition to Mars. So this tells me that there is a sense of you kind of feeling like you're hiding out once Sag season starts. This is the clearing period that happens right before your birthday. So there's a lot of clearing stuff out subconsciously that can be kind of difficult and challenging. So it's important to just have the faith and hang in there and do the best that you can. Rest, meditate, recuperate, all of that stuff. And I think with Venus, it tells me that like you're maybe having to quit a job or taking a break from a job, or you're having to handle a situation relating to, you know, working privately behind the scenes, which seems to be at odds either with your schedule or with your health. So take it easy, Capricorn. You know, it's important not to just push through some of these things. Having Mars go retrograde in your 6th house is changing of jobs, changing of offices, or changes with your schedule. So you can't just plow through things and keep working. You have to take care of your health, and you have to put your health goals first. Don't forget that lunar eclipse in Taurus. Like I said, that's going to be on your on the 8th in your 5th house. It's in a sister sign, so it's positive, but it is wild. So I really recommend looking at my eclipse video. Then you'll have a new moon in Sagittarius on the 23rd at 23 degrees. Excuse me, it'll be 23 degrees in your 12th house, where you get spiritual, you rest, you recuperate, you take time to be by yourself. And meditate, chant, you know, travel, you know, get a energy healing, anything like that that's going to be helping you kind of ground your energy out. Let's see what the cards say for you. Hi, Temperance. I'm kind of relieved to see this card, honestly. Finding balance, rest and renewal, the appropriate timing, knowing that things come together at the right time, not pushing things and letting things kind of balance out. Seeing a healer or a therapist, or allowing things to kind of marinate for a little bit before you take action and go in a certain direction. So this is kind of saying like the universe is intervening and telling you, hey, it's time to take a step back, rest and recuperate a little bit before you make your next move, and that you're still on the right path. It's just important for you to be patient and be doing everything in moderation. Good luck. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this will be your November 2022 horoscopes. I hope you're doing well. Well, for you and all the other fixed signs, this is going to be quite an eventful month. Obviously, you know, you just had an eclipse recently in your 10th house, so you're kind of setting the stage for new goals in regards to your career or things that you're getting ready to release and let go of. So for some of you, it's, I don't want to be a CEO anymore. I don't want to be married anymore. I don't want to work for other people. I want to work for myself. That's still clearing out for a little bit, clear into next year. Now, because there's so much energy in your 10th house, Mercury, the South Node, Sun, and Venus all in the 10th house, it's like a very busy time. It's very busy for you in terms of your responsibility and your role and how you're seen out in the public eye. What you're going to notice the first half of the month, the first like 10 days or so, is just a lot of planets conjunct the South Node, kind of showing you where you're releasing and letting go of something, or where something's losing momentum or power. It's all going to oppose your 4th house, where you're feeling like you're doing that willingly to kind of focus more on your emotional health, your mental health, maybe relocating, spending time with family, getting more involved in your home business. And it's all going to be squaring Saturn in your sign. So you're going to feel frustrated with some of the stuff that's going on within work and family life. You're going to feel like you're the person who's kind of saying, no, not yet, it's not good enough. And you're really adamant about your boundaries and just the expectations that you have for your life in general, because this will all square Saturn. Okay, so just take it easy. You know, between this and the eclipses, there's going to be some intensity this month. So on the 3rd, first we see Venus conjunct the South Node. And Venus rules anything in regards to your family. So you might be telling your family, I'm quitting my job. It's time for, you know, me to make a change. It's time for me to focus more on, you know, my relationships with people in my private life. There may be a sense of cutting somebody out of the family business, or you might have to deal with somebody professionally from the past. That's the way that I see it. On the 5th, the Sun will then conjunct the South Node, and it will obviously be in Scorpio. Sun rules relationships, so I'm wondering if you're cutting ties with somebody professionally, or a client, or you're saying goodbye to someone. And then you'll have Venus, which will oppose Uranus. So it's like if you are if you do have a family business, or if there is something going on with like you working with parents or helping parents, there's going to be some like stress here in terms of like whether or not you feel like you're still in charge of things within that business, or if you can still keep maintaining the business relationship and family relationship as well. Venus will oppose Uranus, which is your chart ruler. And so that tells me that there's going to be like a little bit of like a flip-flop, where there's going to be some changes in regards to what's going on either at work and responsibilities at work, or at home and who's in charge of things at home. So the first 12 days of the month is quite active with this chart, and you're going to keep feeling like you're the kind of like the gatekeeper that's like, yes, this works for me. No, this doesn't. Yes, this works. No, this doesn't. And you'll see so much change and turnover at work and in your professional life that you're going to be like, is it just me? Am I on my own here? Like, why are things so much more challenging and difficult than they need to be, unfortunately? On the 6th, Mercury will conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and Venus will oppose. So yeah, that's the flip-flop that I talked about. Okay, so then on the 8th, you're going to have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So it's a full moon, a lunar eclipse, total eclipse in your 4th house, completing something relating to the home or the family or the past. Things like selling your house, buying a house, closing on a deal, finally, you know, moving away from your hometown, some kind of difficult, challenging, destabilizing situation or crisis with the family. This is because it's involving your chart ruler, Uranus. Now, this eclipse is going to square Saturn, and it's going to oppose Venus. So you're going to kind of feel like all hell is breaking loose in between you, work, and your family life. Like I've said to the other signs, you're going to start seeing the writing on the wall really the early part of the month. And if it materializes as having to quit a job or having to cut a relative off, it would not surprise me. On the 8th, we will also see a Sun-Mercury Cazimi that's kind of setting up. And this is going to be about some information coming to light about money and resources at work. And you having to talk to somebody about this situation and realizing like how dire something could be, especially financially, or how significant of a loss there has been in a professional realm. This can also be about losses involving things regarding like bosses, people quitting, you know, there being like layoffs, stuff like that can happen here as well. Mercury will also oppose Uranus, so it seems like there has to be a sense of having a conversation with your family about whatever is changing at work. On the 9th, the Sun in Scorpio will oppose Uranus. And that tells me that you're going to have a partner or somebody professionally at odds with some of the decisions that you're making, and there's going to be some professional and emotional strife, unfortunately. Mercury in Scorpio will then square Saturn in Aquarius, which means whatever information is coming out right around the time of this period, it is squaring Saturn, and you're like, this isn't the news I was hoping for. You know, I don't know how to have this conversation with my family, or I don't know how to relay this to people at work. So it's not the best day for meetings and communication in general. On the 11th, the Sun will come into a square with Saturn. So this is in regards to your partner or relationships at work, squaring Saturn. The whole half of the month is like, you know, like I said to Leo, you can't appease everybody. There is going to be a need for you to focus on 2 main things this month: your physical body, your boundaries, your goals, and what's best for you emotionally or your family. Even if that means there's some fallout with relationships and some fallout with work. After the 11th, so once we get to the 14th, things start to kind of ease up a little bit. We're coming out of like the eclipse energy, and we're going to start seeing trines between Scorpio and Pisces. So on the 14th, the Sun in the 10th house is going to trine Neptune in the 2nd. So it's almost like you're able to remedy a situation by paying something off or investing in something, or, you know, letting something go and being like, you know what, it was a wash, you know, or it was a loss. I just got to turn it loose. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. And probably realizing that it's for the best, and it could have been something that you overlooked and willing to make a sacrifice financially. Then on the 15th of the month, Jupiter in Pisces is going to trine Venus. And I feel like there's a silver lining, and it's like, okay, how do we build back from this? What did we learn from this? You know, what's the next step? And that can bring in actually a nice positive financial kind of chunk of change, or something that's going to be giving you a little bit more security. That's the vibe that I'm getting here. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini is going to come into a square with Neptune in Pisces. So we've got Mars in the 5th house of children and investments, and also anything in regards to like lovers, self-employment, retrograding, making its second square. So look back at October 10th through the 14th. For some Aquarius and Aquarius risings, it's like, you know, kids that are like unsure of what's happening in terms of finances. For some of you guys, it's like, you know, children that are asking you for money and support. For some of you, it's reevaluating your hobbies and how much time you're investing into, you know, your hobbies, and whether or not you need to scale back on some stuff financially. And if traveling gets postponed or something and there's like a financial hit, that's something else that can happen here. But for the most part, you know, Jupiter and Neptune in your 2nd house, you got to ask yourself, where is my money going? Where am I spending it? Like, where are all these, you know, things going? And is there like a hole in your pocket? Is there subscriptions you don't know about? Are there things that are getting spent that you're like kind of wasting money? And I would scale back a little bit on kind of pleasure spending with Mars in the 2nd. There's a need to kind of bring it back a little bit and communicate more effectively with people in regards to what makes you happy, okay? Mars rules vehicles and career, or it rules media and communication and career. So it's like something about responsibility and maybe getting on like a more regular content posting schedule if you own your own business. And having more regular kind of sit down conversations with romantic partners, creative partners, or loved ones. On the 21st, Venus will conjunct Mercury in Sag, so that'll be in your 11th house. Good news coming from friends, lots of sweetness, possibly being able to have friends come and stay, visit you, going back and forth with them and talking to them more often. You may find, because Venus is the ruler of the 4th, that you're inviting them into your home for like a dinner party, or they're inviting you. Good news also in terms of joint resources with friends, and if you're investing with a friend, that can pan out positively as well. Then on the 23rd of the month, we're going to see Jupiter is going to go direct in the sign of Pisces, okay? So Jupiter is back in your 2nd house, bringing you 2 more months of sweetness and abundance, helping you expand things if that's important to you. And with this conjunction, and it goes direct, you might see that there is a sudden opportunity for good luck and good fortune coming for you and for your friends financially, and feeling like your goals are really coming into fruition. It'll only be there until the end of December. And then finally on November 30th, Venus in Sag will oppose Mars in Gemini. So you're going to have Venus here in your 11th house. Venus deals with anything in regards to your family, your home, as well as travel and your beliefs, and it will oppose Mars. This can be things like a woman in your family is at odds with one of your kids, or one of your family members is not totally wild about a romantic partner, or this realization that something has to change with your home life as a result of Mars retrograde. So, you know, your goal is, I want to have an office space, or I want to expand my business. You got to make room for that in your home or in your house. Mars, Venus in the 11th and the 5th can also just be like fun sporting events, being able to hang out with your friends and kind of like watching, you know, teams play, and there being like lots of like rivalry, fun parties, and possibly also meeting people through connections that you have with friends and events, where there can be some real strong attractions that you can have to people that you're meeting, okay? Don't forget about that lunar eclipse that's going to be in Taurus in your 4th house. It's going to really rock this. So sudden endings, beginnings, needing to move, you know, things that kind of break down in the home suddenly. Watch for electrical issues, power outages, issues with the internet, and be very careful with gas. Be very careful with open flames. So candles, anything that's like ovens, anything that's like lit, there can be like kabooms that happen. So be very, very, very careful around the time of the eclipse here. On the 23rd, there's going to be a new moon in Sag at 23 degrees in your 11th house, and you'll be planting the seeds for setting new goals in regards to your future and what you're hoping to achieve. it'll play nicely with Saturn in your ascendant, but that is going to come into squares with Jupiter and Neptune, and it's also going to come into opposition with Mars. So there's still more confusion with where is my money going? What am I spending it on? You know, so be mindful of your spending habits, and more on that later in the month when I do that reading. And let's see what your card says for you. Oh, I got, it was funny, it was 2 cards, but the card that really came up was the 6 of Cups. It was the 6 of Cups and the Lovers, star-crossed lovers. But the 6 of Cups is reunion, sweetness, what's familiar, reconnecting with people. So I'm wondering if this is like bringing back friends, being able to see friends and people you haven't seen for a while, getting more in touch with like your childlike nature. And that can also be with the Mars retrograde in your 5th house, where you're like, I need to learn how to play. I need to have fun. I need to have a good time, or I need to reconnect and find more time for romance, or find more time to find things that make me happy. Going back to old hobbies or even old lovers. So reconciliations and reconnections are possible. But I think this is just about realizing that you have to do a lot of work in order to protect your happiness, and you're reminiscing on the times that you were happy, and you're using that as like motivation and momentum to move forward and be like, I'm willing to protect this at all costs. Okay. Good luck, Aquarius. And now we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. I hope you're doing well. This will be your November 2022 horoscopes for the month ahead. Ton of planets in Scorpio, which I don't think you mind. It's your sister sign, so it's going to make trines to your personal planets, and also we'll see trines to Neptune and Jupiter. So it's a little extra sweet for you this month. Now, here's where things are complex though, okay? With a loaded 9th house, you're gonna see lots of themes relating to legal stuff, documents, publishing, education, travel, philosophy, like the higher mind, like what your belief system is in general. And it is all going through a clearing and a purging. All of these planets will sit on the South Node and they will oppose the North Node. So letting go of the need to understand the world, trying to understand more of your 3rd house, which is your immediate environment, what you think and how you communicate. All these planets will also square Saturn in the 12th house. So there is a sense of sometimes losing the faith, feeling pessimistic, you know, not understanding why I think certain things happen in the world, and a total test of your belief system. But all of this will trine out to Jupiter and Neptune on your ascendant. So you're going to learn this month that sometimes there is a need to end things and have change and have things turn over in order to really get into alignment with your vision for the future. Okay. South Node will conjunct with Venus on November the 3rd. Venus is about transformation. It's also about communication of values. So there can be a sense of realizing like, okay, you know, we're not on the same page about how we want to spend money or where we want to travel. There can be a sense of having a miscommunication or a falling out with like a sibling. That might happen actually through a couple of transits. On the 5th, the Sun conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio, and that can represent delays with travel or with education, or issues in regards to legality or lawsuits. And then you're also going to see Venus in Scorpio oppose Uranus in Taurus on the 5th. So Venus will oppose Uranus. Unexpected things going on where it's like your mind is on fire, you know, you're trying to communicate and things are coming out, but you can be speaking out of fear. Delays and issues with documents, visas, passports, IDs, these things can happen. On the 6th, Mercury will conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and this is about some kind of miscommunication with a partner, a business partner, a mentor, a therapist, or somehow reconnecting with somebody from the past. It can also be with a Scorpio or a Virgo. Then Venus in Scorpio will oppose Uranus in Taurus. So Venus in Scorpio opposing Uranus. So suddenly, unexpectedly. I wonder if you're going to have dreams about somebody or have a feeling that you should reach out to someone. And then you're like, do I talk to them? Do I not talk to them? What do I do? You can also be going and getting advice possibly from like a mentor or a guru or a lawyer. On the 8th of the month, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Taurus at 16 degrees. It's in your 3rd house. This is wrapping up what's been 6 months worth of work. This is about something suddenly shocking kind of coming to mind. You say something very unexpected. You have an unexpected situation with a vehicle or traveling in some way. Lots of stress on the mind with this eclipse with the square to Saturn. The same day, Mercury and the Sun will cazimi. So Mercury rules partnerships. It's in your 9th house and it's in the 4th. So I'm wondering if you're going to hear from partners from the past, or you're going to be saying to a partner, I'm good, I'm done, you know, I'm going my own way, I'm taking my space. Yikes. And then Venus in Scorpio will square Saturn in Aquarius. So to me, this seems like there can be lots of challenges communicating with somebody and like not being on the same page and feeling like you're kind of isolated in no man's land. Really curious about that cazimi on the 8th though. The eclipse and that happening makes me feel like you're going to get some keen insight from somebody, maybe abroad, right? On the 9th, the Sun in Scorpio opposes Uranus and Taurus, and this is basically saying there's like a flip-flop that's happening in terms of back and forth communication with somebody either in a foreign land or something in regards to your philosophy and your belief system. Same day, Mercury comes into a square with Saturn. To me, it seems like a lot of back and forth conversations with partners that just aren't really working, or you're feeling like you're kind of hitting a wall. Then on the 11th, the Sun in Scorpio comes into a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So Sun deals with delays, coworkers, your routine, business stuff, and it's going to come into a square with Saturn. So yeah, I mean, like delays with separation, delays with publishing, delays with school and education, with travel, with documents. Kind of wonky here. Everybody's getting it. So if you're just listening to Pisces and you're like, this sounds crazy, like not good, like everybody's getting it. I feel that when you have squares between your 12th, 9th, and also your 3rd house, it's like trying to get you to focus more on meditation, seclusion, isolation, letting things go, and like studying behind the scenes or traveling abroad. It just might be kind of like a bang up time where it's like there's delays with getting your classes registered. There's delays with like actually figuring out a way to, you know, travel and like make all of the timelines kind of mesh. On the 14th, things get easier, okay? So you're going to see the Sun in Scorpio in your 9th house come into a trine with Neptune. So you're like, okay, everything is now kind of worked out better. It's all kind of coming together with my vision. Then on the 16th, then on the 15th, you're going to see Venus in Scorpio come into a trine with Jupiter. And you're like, okay, now I can move. Now I can go somewhere. I have the document. I spoke to the attorney. I spoke to the immigration lawyer. Like now I can actually, you know, proceed forward. So you're going to see lots more opening for you right around the 14th and the 15th. On the 19th of the month, Mars in Gemini, which is now retrograde, is coming into its 2nd square with Neptune. So if you think back to the 10th through the 14th, you were likely visualizing and hoping like, okay, I'm going to go in this direction, or I'm going to relocate here, I'm going to buy this house, or there's also like mixed energy going on with like how you're dealing with roommates or somebody that you live with or with your family. And there could have been a lot of like passive aggressiveness where there's conflict in the space that you're living in, or too much like noise or action, and it's like disrupting your peace. So you may find that that's the case again. This is a square that's going to be happening throughout the month of November. Mars will go direct in January, but the square to Neptune is going to really happen all the way until March. So if you are relocating, if you are buying houses, if you are staying places, traveling, like you may not always feel your surroundings are very comfortable. And there can be a sense of being a little too overly optimistic that everything's going to work out. And then you get there and then you realize like it doesn't look like the pictures, it's not as comfortable, like, and you might find yourselves having to either be flexible with where you're living or kind of keep an open mind and be willing to kind of move a couple times, especially if you're doing this during this square. So look at what happened back in the mid-October period. Watch for arguments and conflict with partners. Don't back down though, okay? Whether it's family members or it's like relationships, don't back down and just hide away. There's a need to be like, I'm changing direction. I'm moving out. I need space. I need a second space. Or we need to kind of figure out a way that's going to be more peaceful for us to cohabitate. On the 21st of the month, Venus and Mercury will conjunct in Sagittarius. So it is good because it does say that when it comes to your professional life, your career, there is some sweet things happening. And maybe you're making a public announcement. Maybe you're telling people, you know, hey, you know, buy this product, or, you know, sign up for my services. And you're making some big announcement, even maybe with a partnership, which looks relatively sweet. Positive with social media too, so it's a great day to possibly consider starting a campaign. On the 23rd of the month, Jupiter goes direct in your sign, so it is making everything go full steam ahead in regards to your vision, your prayers, your belief system. It's the last time in your lifetime you're going to have Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in the same sign, so that tells me that it's really important to keep the vibes high. You're going to be more sensitive and more emotional than usual, and that's okay. Just try to be logical and practical. Try to see through some of that kind of haziness with the conjunction in your ascendant. Chanting, traveling, prayer, mysticism, all those things kind of become more amplified when Jupiter is direct, and you might see some really lucky things kind of play out, some very serendipitous things, because Jupiter rules your sign. And finally, on the 30th, Venus in Sagittarius, it will have moved to your 10th house, is in opposition to Mars. So that tells me how you communicate and joint resources are kind of at odds. Maybe you're having issues with a sibling, a neighbor, an aunt, or an uncle. There seems to be some back and forth. Maybe you're realizing that there's just more of an emphasis in you needing to focus on your career and not so much on your home life or what's going on with your family. So you're like, I gotta travel, I gotta be at the office. You'll see this more the end of November going into December, but as Sagittarius placements move through your 10th, they're going to square Jupiter and Neptune, they're going to oppose Mars, and it's all going to be like, what action are you taking? You know, what is your vision? Where do you see your life going? And it can be a total state of bliss and that everything's coming together magically, but it can also be a sense of you kind of not seeing it so clearly and being too optimistic and then being like, oh my God, I misread the situation. More on that next month. Just know that with Venus and Mars in opposition is trying to get you out of your home, more so into what you're doing out in your career and within your public position. Let's take a look at what the cards say for you. And as a reminder also, there will be that lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 8th at 16 degrees in your 3rd house. Watch for communication contracts, slow down, watch for accidents, anything like that. Because that can happen with Uranus in your 6th house and a North Node eclipse. And you're going to have a new moon in Sagittarius at 23 degrees on the 23rd, where you're setting new intentions in regards to your professional life and your career. Okay, let's see what the cards say for you, Pisces. Wow. Strength. Well, you know, difficult times when they test us, that's when we realize like our true strength, right? This is saying, I think, that it's really important for you to pay attention to what you can control and not be feeling like you need to force certain situations. Like, I love all the trines from your 9th house to your 1st house. I feel like it's you learning to go, it's okay, all in due time. I've got this. Everything is coming together for me. Everything's working out. And letting things fall into place without feeling like you need to force it. That means also when things need to kind of fall apart, or when things go kind of behind schedule, or things kind of break down, you're like, it's okay, I gotta let this go, I'm not gonna force this, right? Because the 9th house is the bigger picture. So you're learning to trust in the process more, you're learning to trust yourself more, you're learning to realize that you can't strong arm situations and that you just have to let things be. And I feel like there will be natural conclusions and endings, which are gonna teach you a lot more about your belief system and your philosophy on life. And strength is really talking about your emotional, your spiritual strength, your ability to kind of see through some difficult stuff and communicate in the process that it's not going to get you down and you're just going to keep moving forward. Okay? Oh my goodness, it is going to be a wild month. I know I've been saying that every month, but it's like I looked at November and I was like, huh! So let me know, where is this taking place for you? How are you feeling with these energies? Once again, if you're new to my channel, make sure that you hit the subscription button below so you know when we have new videos coming out. We're putting out videos every other day on the channel. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to hit that 10,000 subscriber mark. I hope so. That'd be an awesome birthday present. So sharing is caring. If you want to share this with other people, please do. You want to book appointments with me? You guys know how to do that. Click the link below. You will be taken to my website, and I am looking forward to all the fun stuff that I'm going to be telling you guys more about next month. We've got, like I said, a calendar coming out. We've got new classes. We're going to be setting up all kinds of new things that I'm really excited to drop, but I can't say it quite yet. So until next time, enjoy the month of November. I hope the eclipses are good to everybody, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Enjoy the month ahead, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.